I think I want to suggest
Hi, Cheryl.
that we approve of minutes.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we'll do that. I mean, that's up to you. I wasn't here, so I can't, I'm just gonna, we'll bring that up.
okay.
So we are.
I'm sorry, I realize I'm sitting in your seat, but I was told to sit here, so I told him to do that. I'm sorry.
I can handle it.
My bad.
That's what I was hearing. I was against it. I was,
What's that?
it's highly irregular. You're recording. There's one back there. Can you recess our? I know.
I'm not yet in session, actually. For what it's worth.
Thank you, Steve.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, who's gonna keep our minutes?
We're recording and Niels is gonna. Niels. Tigason. RG.
It's the expectation that you'll do this in other meetings forward. We've always had a separate clerk, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not the greatest minute taker. That's why I'm asking everyone to have their microphones on so I can go out to the facts and catch everything, but we are,
And Lou is excellent. Is he done? Are we done with this?
he's pretty much done, but we are in the process of getting an admin assistant.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be taking on that role through both the planning board and the CBA.
Hmm.
When will that happen?
We have a expected start date in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay,
So
maybe
by
the next
month.
meeting, then, whenever that is. All right, Cheryl, you okay? Ready? All right, so I'd like to call to order, Town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals, meeting for February 15th, 2023. Members in attendance tonight are Cheryl Thompson, David Tyler, Bob Howarth, Tom Butler, and me, Steve Morielli. Also in attendance is our town planner, Niels Tigason. Who will also be recording the proceedings tonight.
And
No.
transcribing,
And
not
transcribing.
just recording.
And transcribing, thank you. And we have no town board liaison tonight. I think I want to start by asking, I don't know who's, Niels, are you running the remote?
I am.
Okay, and I wanted to ask, is there anyone joining us remotely at the moment?
Linda Little, so she's. trying to attend.
Okay. Okay, good. Linda looks like she's on. And I don't need to remind you, Linda, of how we work this, and this is a hybrid meeting, and you'll have an opportunity to address us during open part of the meeting. I think first, I want to ask, is there a motion to appoint Tom Butler as a voting member tonight?
So moved.
Anybody second that?
I second it.
All right, seconded. I just want to, any discussion, I call it the vote.
All in favor, aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Hi.
good, okay. The motion carries. Tom, thanks for doing this tonight. Great, it's great to have you. Next is a discussion to amend the draft agenda. Anybody have anything to add to that? Is there,
Yeah, I move that we amend the draft agenda.
Okay.
With 3 specifications. A, that we not have I forget the term, I'm sorry, free input from the floor.
Mhm.
Only in the context of a hearing in response to the appeal in question. B, that we put on the agenda to elect a vice chair as we're required to do once each year. And 3, I would like to propose a brief statement that we adopt outlining our procedures in more detail.
Okay, so I'm hearing that the privilege of the floor be
Thank you.
put into the usual position after.
Well, privilege of the floor as part
Not
of the
open,
hearing
as
is
part of the
actually
hearing.
not privilege of the floor. It's people who are witnesses and they're speaking as part of the hearing.
Yes, and
And it's
I'd
not-
like to, so I would like to put that after we hear from the appellant. the way we've usually done in the past.
Right.
So it's not a free forum to talk about anything or politics. or-
Specific input of people interested in the appeal directed to it.
Anybody have any problems with that or any support of that? Or-
If we're not required to have a privilege of the floor, then I would definitely agree with you.
We've never had privilege of the floor in the time I've been on the board, as far as I know.
Other groups are, other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have different mandates and they're doing different things. I think I like the idea of having it be privileged that's related to the application that's going on or the
I would say
appeal.
the privilege of the board should be preserved, allow people to, voice anything that's on their mind.
Right.
That they would, it will go on forever, but, 3 minutes limitation, I think it seems to me that we're a public body and, people ought to be able to address us.
We've never done that before.
Well, no, we do it in the other component. We always do privilege of the floor.
Yeah.
People can address and talk about that related to the appeal. And so I'm in favor of that. I'm not necessarily in favor of 3 minutes. I think a reasonable time frame, and we can
Okay, well, as I say,
terminate that.
yes, the 3 minutes is what people were given, to, hearing, comment.
I would propose a motion that we not have a public session input in response to our history. And we can, if someone wants to second that, we can debate.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
Can I make an amendment? I'd like to have that portion that, but I'd like to have that embedded after the appeal and in response to the appeal.
What I'm proposing is that we do what I believe we've always done, at least in the last many years I've been on the board, I believe it's 12 years, where we openly solicit input from anyone in attendance in response to the hearing that we have.
I agree.
And that
So-
we take their input without limits, 3 minutes or more, that we fully hear them, but that we not, outside of the hearing, open it up to anyone who wants to come and tell us about other things on their mind, including our past decisions or future decisions we might make. We've never done that, and I think it's inappropriate for a quasi judicial body such as the BZA to do so.
I think I'll disagree.
So what,
For instance, tonight, we're not gonna be able to have a hearing and so forth and so on. And it may well be that, someone here wants to address us. And I think we have a duty as a public body to hear that.
Would you feel if this was a court session and the Honorable Mark Vessel was there, that he would have an obligation to hear anyone come in and hear anything?
I think he would listen to people that they said.
well, I think the question is it free form? You can come in here and talk about anything you want. You're given a
I
amount
think
of
you
time.
can cut it off. I mean, if it's, way off the wall, I would just cut them off. Well, at least,
But we do have, we do, are you arguing that we don't have that? We actually have a portion of our meetings are dedicated to privilege of the floor and the public can speak up at that point. We
right,
do it every
what I'm
time.
saying is, I think what Bob's saying.
That's not
is
adequate?
If it, well, for instance, if it pertains to a hearing that we're gonna have in the future or whatever, an issue, I don't think that's something that we should address.
And what if it's what you decided at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago and they want to object? Is that appropriate for us to hear? I would say no.
What are you saying? What?
Let's say someone is upset with a decision that the BZA made a month ago or 6 months ago, and they come and they want to explain why they're upset with
I
it.
think that's done business.
And therefore,
I mean,
we do not entertain it. That's
That's
my
right,
point.
right. I guess what I'm saying is the chair has the discretion to hear it or not as appropriate. But I think we ought to,
I feel like we have that already embedded in our methodology here. We do it all the time. I oppose to having another one at the beginning of the meeting so we can air all sorts of.
I think having it in the meeting is probably fine.
I would,
Yeah.
I would propose that we table this discussion. And pick it up at a later time.
Okay, we're
Perhaps at the end of
good point, but we have to decide on the agenda for tonight too.
All
So
right, well, really what we're voting on now is whether to include that in the agenda. We weren't supposed to be voting on the actual proposal.
Well, that is in the
It
agenda.
was an agenda item.
It's an agenda item.
It is an agenda
Which I object.
Oh, okay.
Right, so are we voting on this for tonight, taking it out, or are we voting for from here
I
forward?
propose as a compromise that we decide not to do it tonight and we table the discussion for.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
I mean, I think actually having the whole board here probably would be appropriate.
Okay, we'll hear from Andy, right, all right, so, can I call the vote? Can I call it the vote?
We're voting on my
Is there any
compromise.
discussion? Yeah,
So
I think
we'll not
we
do
gotta-
it tonight except in the hearing and we'll take it up again. in the
yeah,
future.
I'd like, you got that?
I vote aye. I vote aye.
Aye,
Table it.
Aye.
aye, okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Bob. And now you had two other things there, and one is,
One is,
we want to put in the insert, that we vote for a vice chair because we need to, and I thought could do that later. I think that's part of the, what did you call it?
I would consider the last two items part of the.
Operational items, you mean.
okay, I didn't.
So I think that's operational items, and that comes after a public hearing.
Okay.
Or whenever we're done
Fine,
that,
I just want.
and I'd say, yes, that's definitely part of that tonight, right?
Okay, so. Who we're missing Andy Tillman, who else are we missing tonight?
Just Andy.
That's it, just Andy.
All right, okay.
Yeah. And then, you had a third one, Bob, what was it? Oh, yeah.
It's just that
and-
I wrote some draft language I'd like us to at least consider
Yeah,
in terms of publicly stating what our procedures are.
and I think that nicely fits in the operational items, too.
That'd be fine. I just want to.
So I don't think we need to change the
Agreed.
agenda for that.
Okay, I'm fine. with
Okay, good. Is everybody okay with the agenda? Do I have a motion to accept it? Do we have one, and I can't remember.
that.
Second, it. Okay, I want to call the vote. Vote on accepting the new agenda.
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, so the motion carries. Thanks. Accepting the agenda is approved with its amendments. Thanks, Bob. I think we should, I'd like to go to approval of past minutes. So I've given everybody a moment to
I would recommend,
comment on that.
I'll move that we table those for the next meeting, since we don't have a formal stenographer reporter here.
Okay,
Because I read those and didn't know what happened. I thought, gee, was I dreaming when I attended that meeting? Because there's a,
but I want to say that he's not going to be with us anymore. Was he here last time? Was Lou the recorder?
Lou was here last.
Yeah,
month.
that's what I thought I saw.
Lewis,
Lou was here last month. yes.
what's that?
Lou was here last month,
Right.
taking the minutes.
But he won't be here to,
In the future?
He most likely will not be here in the future, correct? He will be as a second if needed,
Hmm.
if his schedule.
So
allows.
yeah, I'm saying he may not be here to answer the questions that you might want
Well, I mean,
to ask.
I guess what I'm saying is he was very careful in terms of reporting what he thought we said. And what I see here is not what I understood that we said. So I guess what I'm saying is, since we don't have a formal stenographer here, I would prefer we wait till we have at least a stenographer here.
Second that.
We keep the minutes so that we can be very clear what we did on that motion last month.
Okay,
Because you're saying, well, because nobody voted in favor of it, that it didn't pass. I'm saying it should be, say, deny, not grant.
okay, any other discussion on this? Well, we had a
We
second.
voted on that. We voted on
Mhm.
that to deny it.
Okay,
So I can't, I mean, if the board has questions, I can try to answer those questions. I don't know if we necessarily need Lou here and also the board's recollection of the proceedings of last month as well. So in the discussions of what state law actually states or grants the authority to BZAs, it is the ability to grant a variance and also to grant or to apply conditions to the granting of the variance. the state law verbatim does not allow BZAs to deny a variance, so.
I disagree with that interpretation. And I suggest that we have a legal counsel.
Could you let him finish? Let him finish his point. 'cause
I move we
had-
go into executive session to discuss legal matters, which I think are pertinent to where we are.
Were you, did you have something to finish?
I'm saying right now, yes.
I had more stuff, but if there's a motion,
If it's not second, it's whatever, but I have made the motion.
Well, we had a motion. Did you have a motion
Yeah.
on the floor?
I tried to second David's motion and it
did.
was still there, yeah.
No, we're discussing David's motion.
I'm-
Which is to
I'm
table till
uncomfortable with
next
the
time.
Discussion without executive session discussion.
Okay.
Personally, I'm uncomfortable, but I want to be on the record about that.
So we have a motion right now open for that David put up. It was seconded, and any more discussion on that?
If we don't have
Let's
an
do it.
executive session, we'll do it in public session, but I believe it'd be wiser in executive session.
That's to do this next
Well,
month.
when we have executive session, we'll have to clear the whole room.
Or we can move. We've done that before.
All I'm talking about is deferring, tabling the consideration of the last month's minutes.
That was your-
to the next
You
meeting.
made a motion to do that.
We'll continue that discussion since no one seconded mine, but. For the record, I would say I disagree strongly with the legal opinion we're getting from the town planner. I believe he's wrong. And I think it would be wrong for us to proceed based on. The judgment of a non-lawyer in this situation, which runs counter to my understanding of law. I prefer to have a discussion in executive session, not in public and not in the record, but on the record. I believe you're wrong totally in your interpretation of that state law, which I read in detail earlier today. With apologies. I prefer to do that in private.
That could be added to the reason that we're deferring approval, voting on the minute.
It also goes to how we make decisions tonight. What processes and procedures are we using? What's the guidance? I'm uncomfortable.
I think, what I want to propose, when we get to the next stage, that we need a lot more facts, and some of the facts, maybe this is part of the facts that we need. Including how do we even present can we always present it in the affirmative, or can we present it in the negative? Those are pretty important to our proceedings tonight too, which all kind of lead me to, thinking that when we get to the next portion, I would like to say, let's table this. And maybe get some information, but for the most part, table it. So you have a good point. We need to know a couple things, and basically, we need to ask. Not only you, but probably legal counsel or something. We need some judgment from that. And we still have the motion open on the floor. And you're still
To table,
carrying that. Are we okay with that discussion? Motion is to table
table the
Agreeing.
consideration of the minutes till next month.
till next month, next meeting anyway.
Next
Right.
meeting.
Yes. Okay,
And
okay on the
with the
discussion there.
understanding we'll have a formal
Sure,
stenographic
With the
record
hope.
made at that point.
with the hope.
We'll hope.
Yeah, I don't know about understanding, but hope. Okay. So I'd like to call the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so, the motion is accepted, and that's to, delay the discussion or table the discussion on these minutes till the next meeting. Okay, all right. So next we have scheduled a public hearing for an appeal by Sean Ritchie of FLX Tram on behalf of the property owner Carl Klankowski. The subject property is located at 1375 Taganic Boulevard, parcel 28.1-5. Subject lot is in the LS zone and is within the steep slope overlay. The applicant is proposing to construct an 80-foot tram system from the upper elevation of the property where the house is located down to the lake shore. And there are 3 area variance items associated with this request. I don't think I want to read these right now because I'd like to propose that we discuss these a little bit and maybe is the appellant here tonight? The representative?
Carl Blankowski.
Oh, Carl, nice, yeah, Mr. Klankowski, nice to meet you. And the representative,
My name is Sean Ritchie.
Sean, yes, Mr. Ritchie, thank you. And your name was?
Matt Hatton.
Hatton, okay, Mr. Hatton, thank you. So I'm not sure how to proceed here, because I stated this earlier that I'd like to kind of get a few facts before we go on to this, and some are related to, I think, what Bob just brought up nicely. How do we even put this forward? I have a few other facts. Many are directed at you and probably will end up going to our legal counsel, or maybe. And so I'm not sure how to parse some of these things out, but I'd like to, I guess, open it up. Do we want to hear the case put forward tonight? Before I
Can
start talking about.
can I
taping?
ask?
Yeah, please. do.
Question
Mhm.
to just, and I apologize to all of you for.
Yeah, sorry, you have to put up with all this. Tried to give you fair warning that we might be doing this tonight.
Is it the case that they applied for permits and you denied it?
Correct.
And do we have, there's nothing, there's no written denial that this is verbal, or is it?
It was in an email. And
Wait.
along with several verbal communications with the applicants.
That's something.
And then when you basically write the denial, it's written with some of these words that are in here. The number of feet versus the number of feet that are allowed, things like that, for instance, right?
Correct.
Okay, so,
And moving forward, that can be added as an exhibit to the staff report if that's helpful. for you.
okay,
Nice
no,
idea. I
what?
like that idea.
You like to add it as an exhibit? You like the exhibits?
Well, no, I like that we would see what, Niels was approached with and what he said, that like the.
Oh,
denial
okay,
of
I
the-
thought that was nicely captured in his summary, but
Okay.
it's this as opposed to that, these summaries we always get, which the appellant is asking for relief from the setback.
Mhm.
It's 30, and they want to approach on the setback by 30 feet when
No,
the
that is-
rule
it's
is
captured
75.
there,
So it's captured nicely, and I'm assuming that you wrote that and
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
I understand from your emails to the. We're not gonna hold the formal public hearing or decide the case tonight.
I feel like we need some more information, but not just, but I think Niels did a service by informing the applicants and maybe, and then they were nice enough to show up here, so we could actually ask them some
I mean,
questions
'cause
if
I
we
think
wanted
they
to,
need to
but,
leave here with a clear idea of what they need to do more.
okay, so maybe we should have a discussion with them, but I really think we need to have a discussion with us and with Niels and we need to clarify a few things, because at some point, I'm gonna say, I'm not sure what it is that we're doing here, we're appealing, and I mean, that we're doing, but we're appealing, and probably, and I get right to it. Is this 3 appeals? Is this 3 separate appeals? Are these did the applicants apply for 3 separate variances? With, as if they were completely different things, or is this one with 3 components to it?
May I
Yeah, sure, please. Sue.
paraphrase or try to
Yep.
constructively correct?
Mhm.
You've turned it down, so they're applying for a variance on your turn. Presumably, you just denied it, and then you gave them a series of reasons. So historically, I would have expected to get 1 request for a variance based on all of the reasons that you turned it down. And so we would not be considering 3 variances, we'd be considering 1 request for variance.
Mr. Chairman.
That's partly where my confusion is coming from.
Okay, good, yeah. Tom?
I would
Hold on.
suggest that when one piece of property is asking for 3 different variances.
Right.
The piece that's important is that if any one of those 3 is negative, then the other 2 are moot. And so, to me, it makes more sense to consider each one separate. If one gets a yes, then we're free to move on.
Right.
But as soon as one gets a no, the remaining questions are moot, because if you can't do it
I
for this,
agree.
the rest is moot.
But I'd like to point out that we've never done that before. We have always said a side setback, for instance, a side setback variance of so-and-so, a front yard setback of so-and-so, and encroachment on a
Well,
intermittent
yeah.
stream. And that's all 1 variance, not 3.
I understand, but on the other hand, what you're talking about is spreading this proceeding into 3 months, 3 meetings. And that's, I don't. think
That's what the three variances are.
That will do, and I,
This is
I don't
gonna
think that-
take a lot of time, doing three separate variances, each
Well-
one iterative of the other, and then we're gonna go through all that.
Right, but
Tom has a great point that, well, if we did them in the reverse in some order where we say, yes, let's go through that, yes, let's go through that, no. And
Right.
the no punches a hole through everything else.
right,
So this doesn't seem like a good procedure to me. Seems like we look at them and we say, here's what the big thing that really bothers me, this is the kind of way we address these things. The one that really bothers me is this, and I think this is really important, and I can't get behind it. That's what we usually do. We take the whole,
right. I think this is unusual since you will often have one variance. We may have two variances,
Sometimes three, two often, very
Right.
often.
but, well,
Two is very often, very frequent.
maybe I'm losing clarity of language, but are we talking about violations of the code or variances? The variance is a request to reverse the order made by the town official,
That's,
right?
that would make
And
it one.
It's one. And then there might be one reason for that. There could be 30 reasons for that.
Mm.
But it would be part of the single variance that we're hearing. That's traditionally how we've always done it. And then we can pick the issue we think is most problematic and spend our time there before we move on to the others. But by getting us three, I don't, it's confusing at least, and it's.
But Niels had something to say first.
If I may, so.
Yeah, please do.
So the applicant did apply for, basically to construct a tram, right, from the upper
Right.
portion down to the lake shore. I denied that based on a few reasons, and so what is before the board is one appeal, it's an appeal of that determination. But in that are three separate variances that the board needs to consider. One of them is an area variance from the front setback.
Yes,
And it's a little confusing, I think, because most cases, the front is considered along the road frontage.
sure, but in this case, Lake Shore Zone is the lake itself, right?
Right.
And then another rule. What?
Which we've done a million times.
Yeah.
And another rule kicks in, but another rule kicks in, which is, if you're that close, then you have another distance that you have to consider from the lake.
So based on, from the zoning, there's an area variance that's needed from the front setback of Cave Lake.
Yep.
So normally that's 50 feet.
Yep.
There's a provision that allows accessory buildings to be within 20%, so that brings it down to 40 feet. But that is one item, that's one variance item.
That's only the front yard setback.
That's the front yard setback,
The other one says 50 feet, and the more restrictive should take
and that's setback for, that's a buffer setback for
to the lake.
wetlands. That's an entirely separate set of regulations. And then the third one is similar to that. It's a setback, buffer setback from the streams to the north.
Sure.
So those are
75
three
feet.
separate variant, or yes, three separate variances that are required under one appeal.
Yes, under one. So usually we just use that as one. What we've done in the past is that is one variance request. And we address that. I think Bob explained it nicely. You just talk about the different moving parts inside that multiple segmented variance. And then we address them. And we understand that all these are together in the same thing. It's all for the tram. I mean, we get that. So it's better. I propose we deal with that as one variance and one time through, not three separate variances with all five statutory requirements. And but Tom had a different view of that. Is that right or not?
I mean, there may be three different bases on which the zoning officer
Denied,
referred it to us,
yes.
but I think you're right. I think we should streamline it and deal with it as a whole.
And so what do you think about that? Because you could,
My point is that that's not streamlining it. And I would hate to have these folks sit here and have us discuss everything in great detail and then turn it down because one of the three items gets a negative vote. I would rather talk about one, see if that gets a negative vote, then they're released, we're released because the others are no longer a question. If any one of these gets a negative vote.
so,
If I may,
Yeah, sure.
So in this case, it's possible that. If you look at their application, the site plan, you can see the different, the 75-foot setback for the stream
Mhm.
and the 50 for the well. It's possible, for example, that maybe the board doesn't grant the 75-foot setback from the stream. There's still a section of their lot that they could move the projected tram to the south and be outside that setback, and so you would still need to be looking at the other setbacks for the front of the lake. Similarly, the other way around, if you deny the setback for the lake, you could still potentially approve the setback for the river, and it could still get something.
And so before I get Bob in this, there's no reason we can't talk about this, and there's no reason you couldn't say, I'd like to start with.
You know, we can.
I mean, we do that all the time. That's kind of our normal, you know. I'd like to
Sure,
start with this
sure.
because this is really important to me.
Sure.
And we usually, in our discussion, we usually do that and allow it to flow in that direction. So I'm not sure that we would be foolish enough to go down that, all right, well, we still have to deal with the other two. The way it's set up, though, we have to deal with all three.
We have to deal with all
So-
three and we have to go through all of
I
them.
prefer it be one, not three.
And if.
And can I make a
anyone
correction?
who's denied-
Our laws do not say it's gotta be a federally or state determined wetland. For a lot area, or for a lakefront, setback from the lake shore. That's the word, minimum measured in MHWE, 50 feet. So it's not a wetland, so we're not talking about a wetland here. The
Under-
Cayuga Lake weirdly is not a federally designated wetland, nor is it a New York State DEC wetland.
I
And
So-
the question is also
disagree.
state property, I think.
Well, I'm just going over our words.
Professional, I disagree, and if you need, we can bring in legal counsel, but in my past 15+ years of experience in municipal government, working with wetlands and streams.
Mhm.
The federal department, Fish and Wildlife, do classify Cayuga Lake.
As wetland?
As a wetland.
Okay, I'd like to see evidence of
So the
that,
staff report.
because I'd love it. I mean, I would love that to be. It seems so ludicrous not to be, but. Great.
Can you provide
couldn't find
evidence
it
of
in
that?
Wait, sorry.
Evidence that the Fish and Wildlife Services designate
That's
Cayuga Lake as a federally designated wetland.
right now. Do we need to do now?
No, but I'd like
It's
to see
important for us,
before our next meeting.
Really important for us for the
Yeah,
future.
I thought I had it in my staff report, but if not, I'll send it off to the board.
Yeah, I'd just like to see where I can't, I can't find it in the wetland surveys, and the DEC doesn't really say it, and the feds don't really say it either. So National Wetland Inventory.
On the DEC, they do have a website that shows wetlands, and if you go, there's a toggle for other wetland information.
Yeah.
If you toggle that on, it does generate the lake as a wetland.
It does, as a wetland or a wet area, or, because they have the different terms.
And it states it under Fish and Wildlife Service, not Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, right. Good question. Okay, good to know.
I think there's.
It still
something else
stands, so
we
it's
need to
50
bear in
feet.
mind, which is. If the applicant is agreed by whatever we do,
Mhm.
the applicant has a right to appeal to court.
Agreed,
And so
always.
I think dealing with all in one piece is very important for the court, for us
Mhm.
to, not have the thing sort of hashed over. I mean, I've seen, things that go bounce back and forth between, the lower court and the higher court or whatever, it's a waste of everybody's time.
Right.
So, unless, we have a good reason to bifurcate things, I think we should not do that.
Excellent. I think I want to heed what Tom said, and we shouldn't be chasing down everything and spending all the time and be here till midnight and then table it and be here till midnight the next time. Because we're going through all three of them we should go through one, yep. Want to add to it? Sorry. We should go through one and then do it the way we do the 5 statutory requirements, right? We say this, it's fine. This is not because of this element, and this may be, and right? I mean, we actually already do this. We give a whole picture of it, not just these things. Yep.
If I could just, I think Neil did a nice job of summarizing the fact that we could, if we could, by bifurcating, we run the risk of saying it's wrong here, but you could put it there. We really need to think of the totality and our usual approach and the recommendations of the state of New York are that we not simply decide yes or no, but that we view whether there's a possible in between, which would work for the applicant as well as the regulations. And we can't do that without looking at the totality.
That's right.
of all three of the violations.
And it'd be foolish to
we-
pretend we don't,
we have
not
to-
considering the other things too. And we've dealt in the past, and we talk about the different. Are there different possibilities? Can we examine an alternative approach, method, all sorts of things we think about. So we definitely look at the totality, no question.
If I may real quick,
Yeah,
so
please.
in regards to the wetland, for environmental biologists on the board of themselves.
Yes, it does.
It's classified as a lacustrine limnetic wetlands with an unconsolidated bottom that is permanently flooded, or L1 UVH is the designation by Fish and Wildlife.
L1 UVH.
Yes.
Lacustrine
The lake,
Lake,
like a stream.
and that's federally protected wetland then,
There are several wetlands.
even though it doesn't
I
have the
think
right, all the other.
These are considered wetlands, lakes,
And-
wetlands.
And the Fish and Wildlife is bonding it as opposed to the Army Corps, which has regulatory authority.
It's on, I'll give the link, but it is on Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, great. The good news is that it's not counter to what we've already said in our, so we said 50 feet and federal protection is 50 feet, so.
I'm wondering, have we bypassed the chance for the applicants to?
No, I think I was gonna pivot. I would like to pivot now if we're okay, because a lot of it is really directed.
Yeah,
at
but if
us
we're getting into
discussing.
this one now, I think the applicant should have a chance to address this before we
Good
get
point.
into it.
Should we pivot and ask them, do we want a full presentation at this time? That would be fine. We're gonna do it next time. At the very least, so,
It might be better next time, just, we may have different members here.
yeah, good point.
I think what you're hearing is that we're likely to postpone you to our next meeting because we're having decisions as the process.
But would you like to hear from them at all? I
Well,
think I would.
that's the question. We don't want to be impolite to you, but
I think it's important to understand a little bit about what we're trying to do, what the system is. We have been in front of the fish board and other boards, many times over the years. I think the last one was a couple years ago. We have, I think, 12 trams in your town, and so we have a pretty successful track record and reputation, all that kind of stuff is good. But we understand how laws ebb and flow. Our last time through this process, the town planner went to the attorney and they deemed that this project does not fit into the definition of a planning in our zoning code, since hence the setbacks do not apply. So the tram itself is a little bit of it's an odd duck, a little bit. It's not a building, it's not whatever. So
Right.
so we always come to towns not exactly knowing what the ground rules are, and that's fine. We get that. So we're here to answer any questions you have. We worked with Army Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife, every town municipality without any issue, meaning that we've addressed their concerns, and when there's things that we need to abide by, we do. There was a invasive, or not invasive, a rare plant on Seneca Lake, and Fish and Wildlife said, there's this rare plant on this bank, and we're like, you're kidding me, what does that mean? This rare only exists here in Minnesota in the whole world. Okay. So once we showed them what we do, then they were completely satisfied. So we are totally comfortable with any setback. This tram system is really it's really a replacement to a stair system. So for folks to get from their land to access their lake safely, that's where our product lives. That's where our design lives. So we understand stairs. I mean, there's probably some areas that you couldn't want stairs, but generally speaking, we believe our system is better, superior, safer, less invasive, more stable for the environment, better for streams, better, all that's good. So we'll have no problem defending what you do. It's up to you to believe us or go see for something. Kind of in a nutshell though, and Matt has a copy, our system is basically constructed of aluminum rail and aluminum pipe. And this is kind of the the heart and soul of our system, even though it's very, very simple. It's a 2-inch aluminum anodized pipe, and we pound a pair every 12 feet up the slope. So the entire system is held with a series of pipe, and in this case, it's probably about 16 pipe per one. So the impact to the
Application
ground,
said 26,
pardon me,
application said 26.
26 pipes going in, yeah, it would depend on the length, and then we always round up because we never know exactly what the deck system at the top and it's going to impress. We always want to estimate it on the high side. But that said, this is the impact into the ground, and 26 of these would fit into an 11 by 17-inch piece of paper. So the impact to the ground and to the, to the soil is, I have a little graphic in here, but is fairly hold on a second, but it's fairly low. In this site, there's no excavating to speak of. There's no hill shaping, the way the ground is. So that's kind of important because a stream within 75 feet or 60 feet, we won't have any effect on the stream at all. I mean, you can, once you see the system, you'll see it's not going to change the flow of the road. So that's kind of the essence, once people understand the system itself. Yeah,
Just a point of order, we haven't yet actually started the hearing,
sure.
and I'm not sure if we should or not.
Yeah,
Maybe we should, we don't want to waste your time.
Right.
Once you start hearing, you'll have to say it all again. Just so you know, so it's-
No, that's fine.
So-
It just helps to understand.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and we're not wasting time.
Right, so what's important is to understand that kind of the look and shape and the
No, I,
design of the systems, you kind of know. So this applies, and then I think the other thing to think of is in the code, there are allowances. There's always, I won't even say exceptions, but there are allowances for example, docks, boathouses, staircases, clear structures in not only near the boundary, but actually in Hugh Lake County. So there's clear precedent of components and structures to enable people to enjoy the property safely, structurally. And so I believe this product, as does stairs, kind of fits in that same family.
What kind of machine is used to get the
Yeah.
pipes into the ground?
Yeah, great question. We typically use we call it a hand fence post driver, but it's basically, a number of manufacturers make it, but it's usually a little Honda engine, gas powered, hand carried. We used to use mini excavator.
yeah,
to
I remember
pound,
that.
and we still.
So you'd have to drive down the slope with the
Yeah, we
excavator,
don't
right?
do that anymore.
Okay.
Just because of the complexity and complication, but to be honest, these handheld drivers. I say one person, but I can't do it. Matt can, but it's really, we can hold this thing, and so it pile drives the pipe
Right.
into the soil about 42 inches.
So it's one person or two people, whatever, one
Yeah,
person standing
one person.
there, their
It's very
footprint, and-
effective, yeah.
right?
And we went that route because way back in the day, because the traditional digging of holes,
Mhm.
16-inch diameter, 4 feet deep, Sonneborn tubes, concrete, much more invasive. And the pipe goes in, actually, you look at the diameter of the pipe, it's not even the whole pipe, it's the
Yeah,
the
the
thickness
outside,
of the pipe, that's even less. So, but nonetheless, a very effective, very strong way to support the structure. It's basically constructing a ladder and pinning it to the hill. And then everything's kind of connected from there. So the bread and butter, the heart and soul of our design is
Of the
those
pipes,
pilings. So placing those correctly, aesthetically, we try to make every component kind of blend. It's not invisible from the plate, but it's anodized brown, and it's aluminum, never going to corrode, decay, rust, anything. So yeah.
can I ask you what the bottom, you have a platform at top, I know you have that,
Yeah.
and that's where the machinery is up there? There's a big pulley system and
That's
and
correct,
motor
yeah.
up there, right?
Yeah, the group ice room at the top, all the
Mhm.
components, all the guts, brains, and it's all on the
They're
top.
all up there, yeah.
That's
So
what
there's a
you're gonna
platform there, and that platform is
Mhm.
what is it? And then it's got a roof over it too?
see. And no roof, typically the
Okay.
platform about 5 feet wide, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet in length, depending on the slope.
Mhm.
Depending on every homeowner, different configuration, whether we're coming off an existing deck, or we're building something new.
Right.
That's supported with our same pilings, our same pipe. It's composite decking, aluminum railing. And customers and things that are their decking material to match whatever they have.
Sure.
At the bottom, we can do anything from just a step off. The cabin is designed so it's only 8 inches above the ground, so you can stop the cabin. Customers can step off.
Mhm.
Sometimes it will come down onto an existing dock, an existing platform, or we'll build a little 4 by 4 foot.
What's the plan here? Since it's
Um,
8 feet away from the water.
Well, it would probably be like a 4 foot by 4 foot platform above the high water mark, so we'll be.
8 feet,
Pardon me,
8 feet from the high water mark, right?
I think, it's at the high water mark is typically what we request, what we ask for.
He
We
means
could bring it up the hill 8 feet.
He means vertically. Vertically at the high water mark?
Yeah, it'd be above the high water, so, high water mark, and then we're above that, so up the slope.
Oh, I was
So-
saying, planimetrically, how far away from the high water, HWME?
Yeah.
On the plot plans for this property,
Mhm.
the high water mark on there will be about 5 foot from the
And
lakeward edge of the platform. If we have to have 8 feet, we can do that.
we have to have 50 feet, actually, so,
Well,
yeah.
The 50 feet.
I was
not
saying,
gonna
I
happen.
saw the 8 going through here, that's all. I'm not suggesting that 8's
And
good enough.
The level of the platform is at about 387 feet elevation. So the 386 is the 100-year floodplain. and
What's the
we're above
500?
100-year floodplain.
You know what
Off
the
the top of my head, I
500
don't remember, but that notation is out of date, as you probably know.
Okay, well,
We-
whatever you want to
We
term.
get 100-year floods every 2 to 3 years now.
Right, but in the fall of 2021, when I first moved into the property, we had 18 hours of rain in the end of October. Lake level come up to 385 feet. I've since gone back and determined that what used to be the 100-year floodplain is 386 feet. In the sketches we provided to you, with white stakes going across lakeward of where we're planning to put the bottom station is at the 386 foot level. And the platform is above that about another foot, 18 inches of elevation. Make sure, when I put my dock in, I built it a foot higher than all the neighbors,
Mhm.
because when the lake was at 385 feet, they were within 6 inches of being underwater. So I deliberately built my dock another foot higher to buy some time for
Mhm.
future storms.
So you're with us on this one, right? I mean,
Yes.
That's what we do. A lot of us do that here, so we're aware that 100-year
Yeah,
mark is not really
you know,
useful.
the
Right?
change in, climate change and that sort of stuff, you're gonna get more severe storms and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and then they also, don't forget, they hold the water back, and it's
Yeah,
not up
that's
to
right.
you or how much it rained, it's up to the
Right.
gatekeepers, basically.
So they don't flood the hell out of the river all the way from there to Lake Ontario.
Or all the way to the
Well,
ocean,
The lake where I used to live on, they almost never change that lake more than about a foot
right?
because of the hydro dams that they're feeding out of there. Between there and this lake. But
Right,
this
so-
one, they use the floater to hold water to control the river flow. It's-
It's all dependent on the engineers of the Central River.
Yeah, Mud Lake Dam is where they're controlling it.
St. Lawrence too, so, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the Great Lakes Commission that controls.
Great Lakes Commission and also, yeah, you're pointing out the complexity of this whole thing, and I like that. We're with you on the complexity, so we want to consider all these variables.
Do you want, can I ask a question about stairs? Do you?
Yeah,
typically, what's
I
your
wanted to
allowed-
ask you a question about the stairs.
Yeah, the stairs you allow currently on homeowners down to their dock. Is that, from a standpoint of allowed into the setback, into the, they're allowed to connect down to the boathouse or shed or a dock or wherever. What is the typical setback requirement?
That's a great question for Niels.
Under the Ulysses zoning code, it defines structures as a building.
Yep.
So I would presume that any required yard setback, if it's 15 feet, that would apply in this case to stairs as well.
So but in order to get to somebody's dock, then stairs would end and then they walk down the rest of the hill.
Unless there is a variance that was granted by the BZA.
Right, so you generally think the process would be, that would be allowed, so I would think. the
Well,
variance-
I'm not gonna stipulate that, no.
Most of the existing structures predate the zoning that we're dealing with,
Right,
so that's the complication.
First one, every case is different,
yeah,
and
sure,
clearly, I mean, clearly, if you watch us for a little time, then
Right,
they're all different.
right.
And we consider all the factors for sure, balance them out. And two, yeah, I wouldn't say that we would always be, there's some general rule to this, to us saying yes to stairs or anything built in the floodplain or within a 50-foot buffer.
Right.
Of
Right.
course, we don't have the problem of, the warming climate, well, sea level change and so forth. On the lake here, it's pretty much fixed.
But the
Yeah.
water variation is
Oh, yeah.
changing faster than sea level
But it's,
because of the problems of maintaining water flows in the St. Lawrence and the dam hydro systems, as you say.
Right.
They're struggling.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
High
true.
rainfall
I'm not
events in
sure that's true.
Ontario can make Coyote Lake go up.
I mean, did you see Lake Ontario a couple of years ago? Just a couple of years ago, people were going, "What? You gotta let the water out. You got it."
Sure.
But there's bigger things. There's a binational commission. There's a Great Lakes Commission. 2 countries. There's commerce. You just can't do that. So I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure they're not going to say, "Oh, that water's going to come up," and it might just be temporary. It's like a few docks and a few trams. It's cost of doing business.
Sure.
So
Well,
we're
you,
considering that.
I know on Cuba Lake, for docks, that's not under your jurisdiction, right? That they followed the Army Corps of Engineers guidelines.
And
for
DEC, yeah.
docks, and correct. But
DEC,
it's not a permanent, they don't have to get permits. Correct? I'm pretty sure
That's correct.
And so, but for stairs to come down and connect to that dock, they would.
That's the town zoning. Yeah, the town zoning can't apply to within the lake by state and federal law.
Right, so the lake itself is covered by the docks, and then the stair systems too, then the homeowners are required to get a permit and get a variance,
Mhm.
and that's occurring now.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay,
Complicated, but that's.
have you allowed any, just curious from the standpoint of history, as far as allowed any stairs in recent?
I don't remember any request for a
Stairs.
variance for stairs. We have had requests for
Something.
your trams.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Trams for
Sometimes
sure.
we've allowed them. I think occasionally we haven't. More big and.
I think there was one that, not really, I can't, I'm not trying to avoid it, I just don't really know. But there's at least one that, they were taking out an old rickety staircase and replacing it with something else, and that was pretty acceptable, actually. I mean, it was like, deemed acceptable based on, all of our deliberations, and it's not horse trading, but it's like, well, you see, there's a problem here, and the person is willing to ameliorate it or do something, mitigate or lessen the problems. Yes. Yes.
I've only lived here 8 years. But I recall that perhaps 5 years ago, the lakefront district was rezoned. And the requirements, so the things that were allowed before that may not still be allowed with
Absolutely.
rezoning.
Oh, for sure.
So we have to not say, well, we did that way in the past. It's been rezoned and we need to look at that.
And it was done after a huge amount of public debate and
Oh, I
input.
know.
And whether we agree with it or not, it's immaterial. It was the decision of the town board, so.
Oh,
Our
sure.
decision.
Yeah, I
Not
wasn't
just a few
debating that.
people.
I was just asking if
Yeah, I
stairs,
don't.
because you see stairs being built all the time, so didn't know if those generally come through, that's a requirement that they have to come through. Just because they're built doesn't mean they came to the floor, I get that,
Right,
they're
right.
gonna build and, of course, later, but, and then you see almost every dock there has stairs going to it, so grandfather or not, it's happening, so.
Can I
Sure,
ask,
yeah, please.
Can I ask them?
Yeah.
So does this property have a dock?
It has a dock. It didn't when I purchased it. I put the new one in last summer.
Oh,
Okay, so we don't see that on the.
yeah, I don't see it on the aerials.
You see the neighbors to the south.
Okay,
If
I
you
see
take-
both neighbors.
If
Have a
if you
dock.
take the one to the south and flip it over, that's what my new dock looks like. Hers is the right hand, mine the left hand,
Okay.
same thing.
and how would you get from the tram to the dock?
Walk along the beach,
Okay, it looks real, in the picture, it looks real steep, like,
maybe a foot or two drop or something like that.
so you would have a little landing dock. And then,
The dock has the end, the end is
I mean, how far is the tram landing from the dock?
about 30 feet. The end of the dock is 25 to 29 feet from the south property line.
Okay. But there would just be a small landing for the tram and then you would walk on the beach.
Right.
Okay.
You walk on the shale to get to the shed, you walk on the shale to get to.
Pretty
To the
much
dock.
level, like from the tram to the dock and
Yeah,
a
it's
little
about
downhill.
5 or 6 foot wide, going across. It's about 7 foot.
Okay, I'm not getting that from the picture. I believe you. I just couldn't see that. It looks sloped. Oh, I guess I'm seeing uphill. I'm seeing uphill from it. You're talking about there.
Going horizontal across the hill, that's what I was.
It's an interesting discussion and I appreciate what you're saying, but we actually have never gone into a hearing, which means anything you're saying now is informal stuff and chatter with us.
Right.
And at some point, we can't make a decision without having a formal hearing and getting formal input
Sure.
from you and having formal questioning. And I'm just wondering what.
In the
you want to
interest of
do.
everybody's time, is it better to go to a formal hearing then?
I don't know. I just want to make sure that we.
Right now, I don't think we're prepared to do that. I feel like we're not. We need to find out some questions that we've identified here. Because the hearing would be all toward what's the request, what's the variance request? And often we've come to loggerheads when we get to the end and say, well, wait, what's the request? And that's very different than what was proposed to us. So I feel like we're not ready to do a formal hearing yet. This is very informative and very helpful. And we really hate to waste your time. And I mean, I think you understood coming in that we might do this, right? So I think it's helpful. We got a couple of answers, questions answered. Anybody else have anything burning? Because I think I would really like to table this discussion until next time. So I appreciate your.
Yeah, I do. I think it's
offering it.
important, like you said, I think it's very important and informative to get a feel for what this is, so you kind of know.
Yeah.
What you are coming up against or defending, the town or the land.
And
or
you
us.
too, right?
Absolutely,
And you too, right?
because we have to know in a sense, is there, generally speaking, your job in a sense is to protect the code and protect the land.
Sure.
And allow variances when they're justified and deny them when they're not, and we get all that. So I think it's key, our intent is to obviously get people safely from their house to the water, with our product and enhance the land, enhance the value. And, protect the land without impacting negatively. And so to be able to, we go down in the hearing, we'll be able to either prove that. If there's a sense of town that we don't want, we don't really care, we just don't want any development of the building, that's important to us, so we can pursue and go else, but at the same time, hopefully, come to at least point of, our system and our intent and,
we know Mr. Klankowski's intent, right? You want to put a tram there so you don't have to walk down the stair, up and down the stairs, right?
Well, I'm 73. next
Hey,
month.
join the club. There's a lot of us here.
And
Yeah.
My current staircase has 52 steps in one straight
Yep,
line.
right.
I went up and down 5 times today working on stuff down
Wow.
there. I'm still physically able, but at some point, I'm not going to be.
Sure.
And my daughters and I made a decision after my wife died in 21 to move me to Cuba Lake from Seneca Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Because it made it closer for one of them to take care of me in the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've already put over 200,000 into the property since I bought it
Right.
to make it my permanent home, including geothermal heating and cooling and the rest of that.
Nice.
So I would like to keep it functional for me as a property if that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
The property just north of me, 1375, has a tram on it already.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially the same thing that I'm gonna put on this one.
Mm-hmm.
With permission from the board, that's what we're looking to do. And the old wooden staircase that I'm either gonna have to rebuild or replace with the tram, the tram, we're going to include stairs with the tram. They build them into the metal structure of the tram. So that would replace the existing staircase, so if the tram is not operating, you can still walk the stairs.
Right. Did I see that? Is that in the application? Is that stated? The stairs are going to be removed?
It's not, well, the old stairs are going to go away as soon as the tram is in.
those are independent.
Is that written?
I will tear them out and use the tram to haul them up out of there.
How long have you owned this property?
21.
September of 21.
So you were in the current zoning when you bought it, right?
You're
Okay.
nowhere near the Moran property.
I'm next door to the Moran property.
You are.
We share a common boundary. That stream is the common boundary between me and the Moran.
Hmm.
So if you're familiar with the Moran property,
Sure.
well, then I'm the next one south. Judy Neese, who still lives here down, was the lady that owned it 40 years before me. And Lisa Red Connect owns property to the south of me. She's been here about 30 years.
So can I just
Yeah.
get two more things other than?
Yes, and then we're probably gonna wrap this up.
Did you answer about how big would the deck be at the bottom end of the thing?
Such as the 4-foot square.
Just 4x4?
Yeah.
And the thing comes right down, okay. And is it possible, you have the tram on, the drawings that we received there, running, starting from the house, going kind of northeast?
The tram from the house would actually travel east down to the line.
It looks like it's a little bit like going back toward the
you-
north property line.
Can you just show it in here? I just drew a line just for the heck of it, 80-foot
Kind of,
line.
they look parallel.
So there's an 80-foot line. You need to correct that or correct us.
Yeah, that's,
So
I
where
mean,
would it start and where? would
yeah,
it
that's,
end?
it's approximately right in this area and it would come
Yeah.
down.
There's a long alongside the house.
Yeah, straight, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, straight trim.
Okay, so I did my GIS thing as usual. There's an 80-foot line, that yellow line there.
Mhm.
There's the property line, the yellow, big yellow. There's an 80-foot.
Sir.
And then there's another question associated with that. Can you really,
Is that the tram?
Yeah, that's the tram, that picture.
Coming from this, deck?
Yeah, it would actually be in, the exact location, very close to that, and it's probably a little bit closer in this area here. There is an existing deck structure. not sure about that. And
that's 70
we don't know what's tied to it.
This is the border, just the very
Here, that was that.
But it needs to go this way rather than this, like, you can't angle down toward the south at all.
It could, but then it put Mr. Plankowski quite a ways from his top.
Oh, I thought his south was down here,
It-
on the south side of the property.
Yeah, we don't know because doesn't show up on the.
That, it would just, there are different locations on the land that it can go. Ideally you put it the bottom where you want to end up. Depending on the topography, that land is pretty uniform, so it's not like there's big rock structures that we're trying to avoid, so there is some flexibility.
There is a beach well down there that I don't want to run into.
Interesting. Wait, Mr. Ritchie.
Yeah.
I did a 75-foot line too across, but I think you said earlier that it could go somewhere else where it wouldn't be. It'll be farther than 75 feet from the intermittent stream.
If we push it all the way to the south side of the property.
Here?
Because the side setback.
That little
is what,
spot?
15 feet.
15, yeah,
We could fit it between the 15 and about 25
that's
foot.
not right. That's 75 feet. That's the meeting.
100 foot wide, and you got 70.
There's the stream.
Yeah,
it's
that
over
25
here.
feet.
You would have to come up the south side and come up into the corner of the lot ahead.
What's the border over there? Is the border the stream or is the border?
The border on the north side is the stream, the border on the south side is an imaginary line going down the
Yeah,
hill.
Sure, it's, on the other side, it is the stream though. Okay,
Yeah,
At the Moran residence, Pat and Richie, we were on the north side of the border there.
Yeah.
And the town deemed that it's not a building, but they deemed it as either accessory, they didn't require a permit, however, we were in the side setback.
Yep.
So we had to come, I think, in front of you guys. I don't
Yeah.
remember-
it was.
I remember-
We remember.
While you were there,
Yeah,
we had a very animated meeting with
we
the
did.
neighbor. And he was, he was, not opposed, but he was willing to work with the Morans, and we ended up building a small little privacy fence at the bottom. And so that trend was there.
Mhm, we remember.
Just
I
a
remember.
point to consider, and I was thinking about it, the Moran tram was put in under an older zoning code.
Sure,
It has been rezoned since then
sure.
with different requirements, and we're gonna have to look at that. That's one of the reasons we need some more time.
Right. Oh, fine. And yeah, that's why.
I mean, Moran may not be a precedent that is meaningful because the zoning has changed.
Totally agree. And so we just, once we know the rules and the ground rules, and then that's why we're here was the planning board. I wasn't able to attend that, but that was there. I was generally favorably looked upon, and they were.
They passed it on to us.
Yeah, they kicked it over to you. And I think the setbacks are legit, and we just want to, that's why, asking, we'll get to that point with asking, depending why, we feel the warrants it, and how the impact we don't feel, I mean, the setback for the stream is so you're not impacting the stream.
Sure.
That's why they're setback. We can defend why our system doesn't have any impact on the stream, therefore, at least there's grounds, or at least the comes up or comes down. You get that, so that's.
So do
that's
we
why we're
wanna-
very confident.
Help them at all, prepare more for us, or do we want to hear the same thing next time? Anybody have anything to provide, Mr. Ritchie, or?
I'm
Mr.
just feeling like this,
Pankowski?
maybe this drawing isn't accurate. Is that what you're thinking?
I'd like to see some. How you really could get 75 feet away from that stream, where you would put it, what's their alternative, are there any alternatives? I'm not telling you have to do this, but
Right.
these are things that are running through my head, and I'm not.
It's just our job to explore all possible,
It is.
one of which is to turn
Concerned
it down,
about-
the others to go with it, but. We
Are
have
you
to.
concerned
We're concerned about the rules as they are, we start there and then we deal with it.
One thing that's gonna come into play is my septic tank is between my house and the edge of the cliff. And if we go to that south side of the property and come up 15 foot off the property line,
Right.
we're going to have to push the upper station farther over the bank on higher supports, because I gotta stay off the septic tank, because I gotta get into it.
Sure, yeah.
So for me physically, the best spot is to the south
Where,
side
right.
or to the north side of the house where the lawn is out there. And that's where the top station would be now.
Mhm.
The current stairs are only about 20 foot off of the stream. And this is south of the current stairs by about 8 to 10 feet. It comes up essentially the same slant up the hill there.
Well, you characterize this as an intermittent stream.
It is,
How intermittent is it?
he's been there for a
Rain- well,
year.
After
and a
it
half.
rains, it runs for about maybe 10 days or 2 weeks at most. And then it's dry again, bone dry when I was down there today,
Sure,
you know. Because there's one 12-inch culvert that comes across the road above me up there. And I think it drains probably about, my guess, 20 acres of ground above Highway 89. That feeds into that one culvert that comes down there. Because they just sold that property at 1372 Teganic. And the south edge of that property already drains into another stream that goes down into two neighbors to the south of me. So it's just a small piece in the center that comes down that drains into there. But it's definitely a very intermittent stream, but it's on the drawing as a stream. You know,
yep, and it is an intermittent stream, so we're gonna treat it accordingly. Does that help you at all? Do you want to ask any questions before?
does,
we
I think.
close this-
I'm not
wrap this
sure.
up?
We don't have any more information from you,
Right.
I don't think there's anything we can do,
Yeah, right,
we've gone about as far as we think.
Cheryl, did you want to see
I
some?
think we can
Oh,
clarify
you
the,
Clarify,
the dock position.
I think this plan, I read plans pretty well usually, but it might be me, I don't know, but
Okay.
this plan that's called, tram site plan. I don't know if it's accurate to what I'm hearing, but maybe it is. I mean, the real reason that we're putting off the hearing tonight is because of in-house stuff, but I would also be kind of interested in having a site visit. Would you be open to a site visit?
anytime you want, I live there.
Okay. Cause I just, I'm thinking-
Just
I mean,
give me a call, tell me when to be there.
and I think Andy expressed an interest in that too.
Yeah, it could be helpful.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to show however many folks want to show up, and they don't need to be all there at the same time.
Yes,
I
sir.
live there full time.
It's trying to get your attention.
Who is Niels?
Well, I just want to make sure that the applicant's team had all the information or all the queries from the board so that they can come back to the one thing that did pop to my mind, though, that it was the first I ever heard of it, is the stairs. That you're gonna come in to play with the tram eventually, and I know that's not necessarily yours, you said it was gonna be a third party.
No,
No, I'm gonna tear the
he's
stairs
taking
out.
the stairs out.
I'm the owner.
But you said stairs are gonna go into the tram.
I'm gonna use the tram to haul the pieces up the hill, so. I
No,
can-
that the stairs are part of the design of the tram, I think is what you said.
Oh, the new tram includes a set of stairs.
Well, we do have,
You've got a better picture
Yeah.
of this. This is what we're looking at, is a they build them as part of the tram frame. The whole thing is
We've
about
seen that
8 foot
before.
wide. And so instead of a 54-inch wide tram, you add about 30 inches on the side. That's an aluminum stair that mounts right on the same posts that they drive down to hold the tram. And the whole thing comes as one structure. And that allows me to put in a good looking aluminum staircase instead of the old wood one that's there. And haul the old wood one out of there and take it down to Tompkins Solid Waste, to get rid of it. Just,
Yeah, the stair system is an option that we offer, and it's basically an egress staircase. So for folks, really the only thing that shuts us down would be power. We lost power. Passengers halfway up the tram, it's a common question. Then what? Well, some slopes you can step off the cab and get the fuck up. This slope, depending on that, someone can, can't do that. Opt for an egress stair, which is typically 18 inches wide. It's simply to exit the cabin and then go up to get off the tram. It's not meant for use in lieu of a stair.
Yeah.
So if you've got a regular staircase, some would take that out or, put another staircase.
So it's only gonna be 18 inches wide.
The step itself would be anywhere from 18 to 24, depending on the homeowner, but it's just wide enough, kind of like you'd see.
Single traffic, single
It's just
Yeah.
single traffic. Yeah,
One way,
file. thing, yeah.
yeah. And,
single lane.
yeah, so being egress, so you see them, it's like a shiplap stairs, but,
Mhm.
there's New York State code for building stairs,
Mhm.
but egress stairs have different, different rules. and regulations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Anybody want to add anything would you like to see next time? Yep, Neil.
Sorry, just
Yep.
making this again, so as part of that, I would request to give that information to the board. At least a conceptual delineation where that is, because that could extend the setback request from 3 or 4 feet, depending on how wide that setback or the stairs gonna be.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be on the opposite side, so it wouldn't, but you're right, we can make sure that's clear what, where those stairs are, so it's not like the tram is 50 feet away from the creek and the stairs are 3 feet closer to
Mhm.
the other side, but for sure, we can make that clear.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to see a consideration of some alternatives. I'm just
Yeah.
putting my
Yeah,
wish
we'll-
list
we'll
down there.
definitely want to go through those, so the more you think about it ahead of time, the better, right?
And that,
But the septic being there is a factor that, we could consider as a hardship that might.
Sure. I mean, that was a good discussion, septic and all
yeah,
that, but
that was good, also, ideally, the 50 foot back from the shoreline, that's common in towns, but being a tram wanting to get down to the bottom, they pull that into the same category as stairs, both, so if every tram we'd like to propose is gonna go down. to
well, we're
the-
not
to the
dealing,
shore-
we're dealing with we're dealing with this one here, so,
Oh, no,
yeah,
no,
I appreciate your
What I mean is
global
that-
honest, but
What I mean is that, we can have different locations, but everything we propose is.
Yeah, yeah.
We can be away from the creek, but,
You can't be away from the lake.
right, can't be in the
Right,
lake,
so
so,
like
but if you were to
the-
say, hey,
That's right.
no way, no matter what proposal, then it would be a waste of our time.
okay. All right. Well, we're not prepared to tell you it's gonna be a waste of your time
Okay,
yet.
well, we appreciate that, yeah. Happy to say.
Thank you, though, yeah.
We approved it in advance, you know?
I know, we get that, we're willing to come back as many times, because we wanna be, we are the local tram company, we're gonna own, we're gonna put trams and we wanna be that. We're
We
that
appreciate it.
selfish, that greedy. you know,
We appreciate it. We
wanna be
appreciate your work
neighbors,
too, so.
We live here, and we own
Mhm.
property here, so.
I think my cell number is in the application there. If not, I'll happily give it to you.
Okay, great.
Give me it's 484-599-1660. Just give me a call and make sure I'm home and come down. I'll happily walk you through it.
And we can also, go to one of our sites and give you a demo on our trams too, so you can,
Thank you.
have right next door.
Yep, right.
Kick the tires if you want.
Okay, thank you. I think we're gonna pivot and move on to the next phase of the meeting, but thanks
Thank you.
very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess we don't even need to move since nothing's open here. We don't need to move the table this, right?
No, we didn't.
But we're agreeing that we're tabling this.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue, pick this up.
All right, so we'll get, wait to hear from you. We will,
We're gonna
any
continue this.
requests or?
We'll open the hearing next time, probably, right?
Probably
We
next
didn't have a
month.
hearing.
Same time, same
Okay,
place. Third
Well,
Wednesday of
yeah.
the month is when we meet, so if you wanna meet then,
okay. And if you want to get,
You'll have to communicate with Niels though on that.
fortunately, they say winter's coming back, so next month, I think summer's over.
Yeah, you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, come on, you know this is wrong, right?
All
I mean,
right,
we all
thanks,
know that.
everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Take care. Folks, I'm not sure I'm gonna be here for the March meeting. So I'll look at my calendar, but I think I may be in California.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I would be if I could.
Okay, I'm not even gonna open that to the public unless Linda has
Let
dying
me
to say
let me
something.
just deal with something that's related. Maybe show up and refresh our recollections, but the Morans came before us for an approval of a.
Tran from this
Right,
fellow,
exactly.
this fellow.
And we turned that down.
No, we allowed it and they're gonna put a fence up and the neighbors were really against it and they said they're gonna put a screen.
Okay, I wasn't here for that part of it. Remember, we
Oh.
had a site visit. We did.
The site visit was about a later request.
Yeah, to add on.
The tram thing went fine until.
It was the add-on and added piece
until
onto the
they-
house.
Should we talk about this? They didn't do the privacy fence correctly. And the neighbor got upset because they had really given a lot to let them put it less than a foot from the property line.
Yeah, because I remember the neighbor was, you know,
They were
That was the second time around when they wanted to
So-
do an add-on to the house or they actually had an add-on and it was found that it was
Right.
out of.
and they never asked for, they didn't have a permit. And they asked for a variance after the fact, which we declined.
Yeah, so that was the second time around and the
Neighbor
neighbors were
was very
back in it.
nice the first time about the tram.
They
And
were.
then,
Not the second.
And then they felt violated after that.
yes,
It's
Their words,
interesting
not
that
mine.
This property is right next to the Morans.
Other side.
Yeah, just as an aside on site visits, I think it's a great idea, but keep in mind that,
we can only do two at a time.
yeah, three of us at a time makes a quorum, it's an open meeting, so we need to advertise if we do that.
So one person at a time
Or two.
or two. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Deb.
Which we
Um,
did for the Moran property, we actually went to the whole.
Yeah.
But we put it out to public notice
Right.
Right.
and the lawyer.
And John went too and everything. right?
Everyone,
Yeah, everybody. The whole
we
town.
had a meeting there
Um,
on the beach.
Okay, so actually, is it the last item? New business, operational items. So first thing, I'd like to say the board needs to sign and vote on a vice chair. Do I have a nomination for vice chair? Well, it's been Bob up until now, or up until recently, right? I have a nomination for Bob. Anybody second that?
We only have the power to appoint someone for one calendar year at a time. Right, right.
Yeah,
And my
sure.
appointment ran out of December.
Second, anybody? No, you're hesitating.
Oh, second.
You're staring at him like,
Oh,
I don't know, I don't know, everyone.
You-
All right, we have a second, we seconded that. Any discussion?
Okay.
It's all seconded. Do we have any discussion?
My only concern is that Bob does have a very busy life and I think might miss more than most of us. And
We talked about it, between the two of us, we both started doing stuff and all that. We've been okay. pretty much.
Actually, let me,
Until this last time. Until this last time, right?
I mean, I hear you and I appreciate that fully, and certainly for the last year, it's been true. Because I'm on the State Climate Action Council. And from July until Christmas, we met for 2 weeks, every second week, including Wednesdays in Albany. But under law, we came up with our final plan in December, and we have no meetings scheduled for this year.
Okay,
And we might have one a year from now.
Okay, good.
So I'm,
So that's
my
looking
teaching
good.
load is half of what's been the
Andy
past.
Oh,
Hilton,
good.
I've
had
my job last month, so.
Yeah, right. So, but we have alternatives, right?
right, but also, Bob
After
does
the-
seem to be the most comfortable with the role, so I would definitely vote for him, because I think if you try to get
Okay,
anyone else to do
good.
it, we'd all run.
If I were gonna have a year like my last year, and I anticipated that, I would decline.
Yeah, you know.
I don't anticipate.
We talked about that
Not that I
carefully. It's like,
think-
what are you doing and are you going away? And sometimes, now teaching is different. We're there during the day and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have any further discussion to have, do you? Okay, I'd like to call the vote. There's Bob. What's the motion? To have Bob as our vice chair, right?
For the calendar year.
Call the vote for the calendar year.
Aye.
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 Hi,
Okay, good. So. You got that record?
calendar year means 2023 or a year?
January to January.
January, yeah.
Mhm. Or December, whatever. Good, okay, thanks, great. The
Thank you.
motion passes. Congratulations,
Thank
or
you.
condolences, I'm not sure. which.
Yeah,
Condolences.
Thanks,
That's a
no,
good honor.
appreciate it though, really, it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
So how did Andy do last time?
great.
Good,
They look
Good to
good.
know. I know.
So that's-
I know.
Well, we've been through
Yeah.
a few formal meetings before, in the city and so
Oh,
forth, so.
Oh, absolutely, right,
that's
Yeah.
what he-
but it's a little different because now we have a different dynamic and all
Right,
that,
right.
so,
Well, he wasn't a babe in the woods.
no,
Oh, no.
no.
But he definitely did not want the people to feel that either, so that, I think that's hard.
Okay, you have another one I have a question on, it's discuss the calendar for the year, did you have something to say about that? Yeah, the calendar, there's a year coming up ahead of us, and every Wednesday, every third Wednesday is when we. That's my input on that.
Yes, that's correct, 2023,
Mhm.
third Wednesday of the month. So historically, that's when the board's met.
And you're gonna let us know when, because this is gonna become not an issue, but we need to know that. When will you let us know that, yes, there is one? You will decide like. Right after our meeting, almost, right? Isn't that the deadline?
So that's part of the discussion that I wanted to talk about. So
Mhm.
it looks like historically, the deadline for applications to get on to the next month would be the Thursday. So tomorrow,
Yes,
close of business would be the deadline. And that works great. So, well, the hearing, which is another topic I would like to talk about.
okay,
with everyone here. But so historically, that was the deadline to get on to the hearing for the next month.
yes,
The only problem is when 239 review with the county is required because they have 30 days to submit comments. So there could be a problem just if we go knee jerk, say, yeah, application gets submitted, there's a hearing. We still haven't received comments from the county, you have to postpone. the hearing
Okay,
to the following
but I'm
month.
okay for you to say, no, there can't be. I mean, this is kind of like two sides of this. One is, if it's not in by Thursday, then we definitely don't have one.
Correct.
If it is, then we don't promise to have one. We start to schedule, maybe you let us know at least. Bob, did you have something to add?
Well, yeah, two things. My understanding, I'm quite sure of this, because I reread it today, is that only you have the power to call a meeting. So
Right,
you can suggest a meeting, but he's the one who has to do it.
and at that time, if you tell me, we don't really have a reading of, the word from the 239, then
And
We'll talk about it.
239 has been pretty rare. Yeah.
very,
The county doesn't like to weigh in, so they have to if it's within 500 foot of the town border, but that's not that common. I don't, if it's next to a state park, they have to. Otherwise, they never do. And we don't get that. many.
so that's not
It's
too often, but I think we can deal with it then, but I really would like to be notified. I'm like, oh, wait, what's going on? And if I wait till the beginning of the next month, sometimes that Wednesday creeps up on us fast, so.
Yeah.
I would like to be notified. I still like to see the schedule we're on, you like the schedule we're on?
You could be notified, so we have our meeting on Wednesday, the deadline is Thursday, you can be notified Friday.
By Friday, there aren't any this month yet in time, good, done, and then I can let everybody know. They're fine.
But the county takes several weeks to answer.
That's
this.
fine, but we can be flexible and say, okay, the county didn't give us, so we're gonna postpone it. So when can we postpone, or when can we cancel?
And you can ask them protectively, even when you don't think they're gonna weigh in, but my understanding is under the agreement, the only time it's binding is 500 feet from the state park boundary or town protector and field or. Over.
What's our obligation? When can we pull out and say, say, sorry, just kidding, we're not having it.
For the hearing,
Mhm.
I mean, you can always postpone it.
That's what I thought. I mean, when we don't have a quorum, we postpone it.
Yeah.
Last minute.
So that's the second topic I'd like to get into.
Okay.
So before we move on.
Yeah.
I think all we're asking for on that Friday would be just to know if there is one. You don't have to have the document, like we're not asking for like a whole packet, just a
Agreed.
notification of yes or no. A quick email,
And then we,
and then you have another 2 weeks or whatever, like however.
As an addendum to that. I think we need to know the details, the kind of stuff you sent to us. More than just a day or two before the meeting. We aren't all able to. I mean, you sent over 100 pages of stuff to us.
It was a week, it wasn't a week.
And, no, not,
some was,
somewhere, and if we had a little more notice, we'd have time to absorb and think about it, et cetera. I think that's important.
For instance, I don't think there's any need for this board to have, for instance, a copy of the notice in the newspaper.
Agreed. TMI. There's some TMI, plenty of TMIs in there.
But
Justification, going back to like the previous 1980 hearing or things like that. Yeah, I mean, we don't really need those, right? I mean, anybody feel the need for it?
So to that question though, I think it was around a lot, but on that.
You should have those in your file.
True, however, as part of the board's responsibility to make sure that you check off your responsibilities, and it's also within your resolution stating that you done X, Y, and Z. Right, like notice was posted and everything,
Mhm.
that's not responsibility of the board, and staff does that for the board. In my experience, and again, there are exhibits that are part of record, that doesn't seem to be something that happens too often here at all, but as part of those exhibits, that helps, if there's a challenge, prove that, yes, you did get notice.
But I wouldn't be the keeper of that, so you would be the keeper of the exhibits.
Exactly.
I don't need to see the exhibits, so
But the
you said that
exhibits
11
are-
and 10 and all that.
Agreed, however, the exhibits are included into the record, so if there was ever a challenge, the court would have to have that full documentation for the exhibits, so that's part of
But don't give them to me, because I'm not gonna give them, I'm not gonna save them and give them to them, so.
We're responsible for making sure that all the hoops have been jumped through, but typically we just say, has it been done? No.
That's exactly,
that is.
that's exactly what we do, right?
Yeah, right, Steve,
At
won't
this-
do that.
at the
And
start
I'll
of the
say,
hearing,
oh, by the
did
way,
you Did you get notice?
were they
How
notified?
long?
It's actually part of my
Has
script every
anyone
time.
responded?
I would have said it tonight if we went forward. I would have said, have they been notified? Yes, it gets on the record. When and how, And you would say yes, and that's on the record, and you also have backup copies of it. So we're aware of it, but I don't think we need all that stuff. It was impressive. I think you said something like very thorough or something like,
Mhm.
thank you very much. And I was like, yeah, but.
A little overwhelming.
Well, now we've got a lot of him.
Yeah.
You've sent us almost everything we need to refer to, even though other things won't be highlighted next time.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
this is the thing is, if you're here every time, if we have a question, we say, it's such and such neighbor, were they notified?
Was there any input from the
Oh, yeah,
neighborhood?
yeah,
These are the
yeah.
questions we ask every time, so. That's fine, that's totally adequate. I don't think you have to lay down the exhibits for us and the detail and everything you say, and then show that that's backed up. You're right, we need that for something possibly in the future, but we don't need it.
You need it in the records.
But if Nielsen really wants to send it to us, he will, and we'll just we'll get used to it and we'll sort through it, we'll know what parts to ignore.
Actually, I liked what you did at the end. You wrote it out. It's like, perfect. That's what I need to do. All right, where are we here? Where are we going? And I got from that, okay, we're doing 3 separate ones. Didn't really like that, obviously. And a lot of it was really, really good. And then a lot of it was kind of extraneous. So I'm not sure what the staff report did. That's like your lingo, right? Staff report?
Staff reports are what I'm used to staff giving to boards when there's a hearing. It's supposed to be as thorough as possible. There isn't, here in New York, there isn't any state statute for that. We don't have any local law for that. It's
Right.
just has been my practice because there was state and local precedent or requirements to do that.
Mhm.
So it seems what previous planners have given to the board is very truncated, very minimal. As far as.
It's been okay, actually. I think it's been okay.
For the board, then.
You're right, we get that thing, but then we had tables in the past. This is a variance and this is what, where it fits in the lakeshore zone and, little tables of what they're asking for.
Reminding us of what the setbacks are and all, because we're not gonna remember.
Steve is
that.
asking
We
for
can look it
the
up, but-
crib notes or whatever that's called with where you just read.
Cliff
it.
notes.
Cliff notes.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, but I feel like those are pretty good,
and
except for the
front yard.
plans, like the plan of metric. We want to get there.
But being reminded that's good, right?
The maps are good, definitely the stuff from them, all that's good, like what are they proposing and all. I don't mind seeing all the seeker stuff, you know, those little checks and. I don't mind that, but,
I mean, being new, it's good to know that he's doing all. of
oh
this.
my gosh,
You're doing
so
it.
now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ask you. Is this okay? And then I'm gonna believe it. I'm gonna believe it. But don't worry about, I guess. Keeping that all on the record and sending that and sharing that record with us. We believe you. We trust you.
Okay, so backtracking, there's a similar question for the planning board. So at the end of tomorrow would be the deadline for March. And so that Friday I'll generate a draft agenda and send it to everybody. That way it's on your radar.
Or just an email saying, yes, we have one. That's what we need by Friday.
Yeah, I mean, that's
That's the
helpful.
one.
And
Wait,
occasionally,
he's saying he might not be here.
most of the time, we get appeals of this nature and they're not terribly difficult. But occasionally, we get things that are really, really difficult, like when the addiction recovery center wants to
Hmm.
do massive reconstruction.
It's organic in.
Jars and you sit there and go. So
That's
that's
straddling
two makes a little bit of
two
head up,
counties.
you know, it's the big one.
Not only is it not in our town, it's not in our county, half of it, but they want to get,
You know, all of a sudden that's.
they bring in a whole
days of work.
brigade of people. To again, that was many
Massive,
times.
that was massive.
Huge, right?
Yeah,
Months.
you got all the seats are filled with lawyers and things all of a sudden.
And fans.
Fans, right? Yeah, that was like getting warm bodies in here.
And attractive.
Yeah. Okay, you had something else to add?
Yeah, one more procedural, and this might fall into the legal issue that we can have a lawyer weigh in on is. My reading of state law says that the board is the one who sets the hearings, and it looks like historically that's been the planner that's set the hearings, so how?
It has not historically in my experience, it might look like that, but the planner always, when I was chair, consulted with me as chair, and I said, yeah, we will have a meeting, and then the planner tells people. But the chair called the meeting.
So if you email me and I'll say yes.
Yeah.
And then you do the rest of the work.
And do you want me to have that as a question to legal along with the other
You
questions?
can, but the law is really clear, it explicitly says only the chair
You can call them.
can call a meeting, if he's out of town. As vice chair, I don't even have the ability to do it, the law's quite clear on that.
So I think I will, because I don't think it says the chair, I believe it says the board.
The board.
It does not assist the chair.
And
Yeah,
you have
let's-
the application, you know, come in, it doesn't hurt to copy us, rest of this,
Here's,
we will know that we
here's
need
the
to be.
citation, I looked it up today, I have some issues I would like us to consider as a
Oh, okay,
board,
yeah.
and one of them is specifically,
Is that,
is that.
okay,
The law is very.
yeah,
clear.
so
Only the
basically,
chair.
and
You
I'd
know,
like
the
to say,
case law, and there's an example where a vice chair, when the chair was in, he reached,
yep,
they tried to get a vice chair to do it on an emergency basis, they did, and it was thrown out in court. as a
Interesting.
illegal hearing. Only the chair has the power,
okay, that's fine,
If
and
you
so
call
you
a
give me a
meeting
little bit of time,
and then don't show up, I as vice chair or anyone
of
else.
course, right?
Can be elected to take over as chair, we can have a hearing, but only you can
Mhm.
call, according to.
So if you let me know, I'll check in, see who's there and that. And sometimes we just not had a quorum, you know, I'm not gonna be there and I'm not gonna be there. It's only two of us, or, and especially with COVID, when we had to be here in person. Not everybody was comfortable with that. Most people weren't, and we call it up or say no. So let's continue to do that. That okay? Good?
Yeah.
Can I say you did a great job, by the way? This is like, wow, this is more like, okay, wow, but nice. Thank you very much. All the information is there.
Discussions and do we want to talk about rules?
Well, let me throw this out for discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to bring, Bob's got some guideline that fits along
I
that.
sent by email earlier, but there's stuff on the back too that didn't send earlier. And
I have it.
okay, thank you, I wasn't sure if people had a chance or not.
I read that. What you put in the back?
On the back, just for reference, because I got interested, I have too much time in my hands today. as it turns out.
No. Apparently,
I gave you a well one, can I get one of those? back?
or those, yeah,
Thank you. I don't want both, but let me start with the back, which is not meant to be a criticism at all, but I went to see what is said on the BZA, on the website for the town as to what we do and also what you do. And I think, you know, that's not our job to tell the town what to put on there, but my sense is it should be redone, and it's specifically under the what the BZA does, it's not wrong, but it makes it seem like we're the primary people you go to talk about if you want to do something, which is not true. People go to you and only after you shoot them down, they come to us. And I think it would, as far as I can tell, it doesn't say that anywhere in the town website. It doesn't, your job description and
Well, they go the enforcement officer
Yeah,
too, right?
it's building code and that shoots them down, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah,
well,
that's
take a look at the website. If I mean, I looked under.
because it says
There-
BZA, go to the
It
BZA.
says to go to the BZA. Now, some people don't, so it's not a
Right.
big deal. That's not a huge complaint on my part, but it goes to. You know, I wonder if the town board's a little confused about it. The more clarity we have, the better.
Mhm.
You know, we really are an appeal, you know, we're not anything else. And.
We're not the front line. You are, and you're right. Who's
the body?
what's his name?
Not denial, it's what you make.
The enforcement
Or approve
officer.
it. If you approve it and the neighbor doesn't like it, they can come back too, right? So, but I contrasted it
I think it's
below, there's this document, it says 2016, that's wrong, it's 2015, my bad. But Syracuse University put out a document which summarizes all of the state laws and things in the area. It's about 12 pages long. So I looked at that today, and these are quotes out here. I think it's entirely consistent with everything else that the state puts out.
Mhm.
But they really stress at the end there, they call us the ZBA instead of the BZA, it's the same thing, right?
Yep.
ZBA can and may only issue a variance when the ZBO, who is you, has acted first based on zoning regulations. And so I think having more clarity about that in the website would be helpful to the town board.
I think you said it well earlier. This is an appeal. We're appealing your judgment. They're appealing your
Well,
saying
they're
no
not
to
even,
them.
I mean, it's not, you're doing, you might think something is fine, but still
Right.
not legal. And you, by law, are forced to turn it down. We can say, not that you're wrong, you're correct to turn it down, but any reasonable person would think it's okay to do it. You might have thought so too. You don't have that power, we do, right? So it's not criticism of you if we want
Of
to.
course, we have the power of interpretation.
We do,
And-
and you don't, except within, I mean, you try, but we can push that further. So, but I think having some clarity about that, I worry that the town board doesn't understand that at times too, and so then
Yeah, I wish
try to
Rich
treat it
were here
like other-
tonight because we could make.
other groups, it goes to the, you know, how we deal with the privilege of the floor and all. If we were a policy making group, sure, you should take input from anyone, anything they care about, but we're not, we're here in this quasi judicial thing, and, you know, I mean, I've been as chair, having people come and yell at me, you know, or whatever, for days on end, they'll do it anyway, but I don't, you know, that's, our job is not to hear that.
Mhm.
Outside of the hearing, right?
I think you were right before when you said the court, you know, if the judge was in the court and you came in and say, I want to talk about zoning and, you know, this is America, and we don't need, it would be. This is not relevant, it's not our purview here, please get the
but-
sergeant at arms and throw them out.
Let me get to your 1,500 feet.
Yeah, well, let me just introduce this and then you can, I mean, I dashed this up and if people. Want to postpone, talk about later, that's okay by me. If you like it, that's great. If you want to change it, it's okay. I just try to get something started in part because I think the. Town board wants us to say what we're doing. In fact, we follow very regular procedures. It's not apparent to me, but they are laid out in these guidelines from the state and they're really well summarized. That short thing there that I highlighted from Syracuse, which is a quick and easy read. It's really clear and I think it's correct. So I was trying to highlight that. I think everything I say in the first two paragraphs is straightforward. In the third, I'm suggesting that we push the town, push you, to notify beyond what we have to under state law. And that's where the 1,500 feet comes in. And these are just my ideas thrown out for discussion. I think we have the power to do that. I'm not even 100% sure that's true.
I think if you go to basically tripling the size of the notice area,
Right.
you're gonna invite litigation. That's to say that you were an applicant or an applicant's attorney, you got turned down because of a comment that came in for someone who's, 1,200 feet away.
Well,
The guy looks at the state statute and says 500 feet.
500 feet minimum, and it also says that the town can extend it further. Doesn't say, yeah, it does not say only 500, it says must be 500.
Okay, well, anyway,
So they're making sure that you do something.
Let me say why I thought 1,500 feet.
yeah, let me tell you what my other concern is. That increases the chances of an error in notification. Because if you have this huge blanket out there, and you don't pick up some parcel that should have been notified, then we're gonna be on the hook.
That's true. The question is whether it's reasonable or not. But the reason I'm proposing it, I didn't come to the last meeting, I couldn't. I'm glad I couldn't because you guys decided on something that's my neighbor, right? And
Right.
I wouldn't have had to technically recuse myself, but I wouldn't have been comfortable making a decision either. The fact is that the structure that they were proposing is very much in my view shed. Had that been built, I would see it every single morning as I sit and drink my
So it's
coffee.
more than
out the window.
500 feet from you or not?
Yeah, yes, it's.
500 is not very much.
950 feet, but it's
Especially in the country.
directly in my view shed, and I'm not saying it would. If that somehow affected the runoff, et cetera,
Mhm.
that water flows across my property. I'm right downstream from it, and yet I wasn't notified because I'm not within 500 feet.
But there is
So I
public
don't think-
notification
well,
too,
the-
though, right? I mean,
The
it's,
notification also comes in the publication,
right,
so even though you weren't formally notified,
you
I would-
still,
I would have had no idea, except I'm on the BZA.
okay,
I mean, how would you, who goes and looks at formal?
Yeah, I
notification?
agree.
you're off the hook because we turned it down.
I know,
You think-
that's
you think
why,
you did.
that's why I'm suggesting.
You're not even sure you turned it down. You did something.
And I'm not set at 1,500 feet, but we're not, the state says. It has to be 5 days or more, it has to be 500 feet. And then beyond that. It says that the local governments can do more than that, they can't do less than that. And they specifically say that they recommend that there be signage on the property, which we don't require, and the state doesn't require, but the state does recommend it. And so there's a practice that we're not following, even though it's recommended. You know, and if there'd been a sign on the property, I would have seen, I walk and drive by that property every single day, I would have seen a sign, right?
Mhm.
So I think more notification, I'm worried that 5 days and 500 feet is meaning a lot of people don't know what's going on in these sprawling sort of neighborhoods that I at least live in.
The sign might be a better way to go. Cause then people who do see it will see the sign,
Yeah,
and that kind of addresses the right.
and
people.
more than 5 days, I would think, 5 days is long for a sign.
And then you're not putting that load of extra, notifications onto the planner either, but people will see it. So.
I'm literally throwing this up for discussion, yeah, I mean, literally every morning I sit and drink my coffee and look at where that garage is not.
Thank you, BZA. Did you write a letter to the town saying the BZA is great? And we really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know how to proceed from here. I like the sign idea for sure. I like the broader notification, but there is broad notification already, and I don't know, I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, but I think tripling the minimum is going a bit far. I mean,
Maybe putting an undue burden on.
yeah, we are. And frankly, I understand where the rub is coming from you personally.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, you gotta look at the whole situation. And what are the chances of us screwing up because of our notification when we made it, sort of a big blanket?
how hard is it to? No, I mean, we're talking, most of the town is in the ag district, where the minimum frontage is 400.
It's gonna be 1 or 2 people difference.
Yeah.
By the way,
But you're
remember
talking,
the cars?
how many people did you notify for that? Probably 4 or something.
This one,
Well, no, this
For the
lakefront,
one, are we?
lakefront, they're jammed in down there.
Yes. That's hypothetical, but it's not a huge number.
He has the list in here,
It's
it's an exhibit, I think.
it would be
Are
1, 2.
Are you laughing?
5, maybe 5 or 6 people.
you
I
laughing?
mean,
And if you extend it to this, it would be 10 people.
I understand your point about, in a rural situation, it wouldn't be so burdensome, but the problem is, if you, take it down the lake, and you have all these little parcels and so forth and so on, that is an invitation for
How do
problems.
you calculate that? You do GIS or?
so, I was gonna touch base on that, so there's a program that automatically generates through the county. The only problem, I think, to David's concern is that it's based on data that the county has, and my understanding is the assessors only updates tax parcels once a year. So it's really based on their data, so it would be applicable even for 500-foot notification. There's a potential that even within 500-foot radius, there's a parcel that has been legally subdivided. that
Sure,
we have
since
existed.
the last time. we looked,
What,
so-
what if we specified, it just, I'm not sure attached 1,500, but for the sake of argument, I think more than 500. Well, let's say we stipulated 1,500 feet for property owners as determined by the most recent county assessments available.
That would be
And so
safe.
whatever, and it's 500 is still legally binding by the state. We are just adding that extra on
There was 15 people notified for this one.
So how many,
for today.
how do you notify? By mail?
Yeah.
So it'd be adding another dozen or so, maybe.
65 cents per mailing.
What,
Wasn't it certified?
No, it's just normal.
Just regular mail.
do you think it would be burdensome to? I mean, your honest opinion, to do as I'm suggesting?
My concern would be that for the fairness doctrine, we apply it to everybody the same.
Yeah.
That'd be my one concern.
No, I would agree with that.
So burdensome, I wouldn't think it would be burdensome, it would just be the additional cost to the town. Or that extra postage, but that would be the burden.
Yeah, that's a huge amount.
No. Not in the country, we're talking about one or two.
Your
houses.
time is the cost, but the postage is.
Well, if he's not doing the GIS, then they're just, all they're doing is going where, what's the address? And they put a diameter on it and
The only time
Everything.
that the admin system will be taking care of this is, stuffing down globes. putting it to
that's
the-
right, that's the manual stuff.
Yeah.
What do you wanna do? You wanna just put this forward for the
It's-
future? or-
It's up to you guys, I propose, I haven't moved it, I've just proposed it for
Mhm.
discussion. I do think,
How about?
I mean, I like that you're doing more notification than two, because the more people know, the better off.
How about 1,000 feet?
Double against 1,000 would be fine, and I'd like signing to,
I think the
I
sign
like
would
the
do it.
sign.
That would do it, because if someone goes by there, they're gonna see it. And they
yeah, I mean, I would have seen a sign.
I mean, is it clear that we have the authority to recommend that to the town? Or is that something?
I'm not a lawyer, and so I don't know, it is clear in the law, the guidance for the law, that the town can do it. Whether or not that requires the town board, or whether we can do it, isn't clear to me. Well, my thought was maybe we
I
could, do it.
think
I
what
don't
we
know
should-
that.
I vote for Bob going and put the sign in,
Have
all the
council,
signs and all.
have council look at this proposal. But see, they're gonna be stuck with defending it.
Sure,
I like, it. We floated it out there. It's a good suggestion. Maybe have council look at it. We gotta pay for council every time, right? I mean.
It's
Talk about
clearly
an
it's worth it.
expense.
It's worth it. You pay
Well,
now,
worth
you
it.
pay later.
it's worth it only if we want to go this way at all, but.
Lawyer, blood
Right.
sucking
I mean,
lawyer.
philosophically, I think the more notice you give further in advance, the more people know,
I told
the happier people will be.
I told that
Yeah.
to many clients and like, sometimes they listen.
He did, yeah.
I
Um,
see it get going, so could we ask
Yeah.
Niels what he wanted to say, and then I'm kind of,
I agree. We're going out of here, right?
I mean, I'm comfortable with, if you want to table the discussions for the rules, or if you have suggestions,
what exactly are the rules they're referring to?
we don't have any rules right now.
No, we don't have rules. That's what they've been complaining to us about from the town. We're pushing
One
us.
of the things I was trying to say in the statement is
We
that
do have rules.
we do have rules. We're following very rigid state protocol. We just haven't written them out on behalf of us, but we can't really deviate from what the state says anyway. So
And who's
the
following?
point
it?
of my statement is that we say we follow what the state says. Here it is.
Technically, they need to have rules, but so they look at us because we never really presented any.
But we.
When they tell you?
I've heard it from a couple different people, but
'Cause I no one's.
not
approached me
formally though.
About that, like, I didn't know we were in trouble for not having rules,
Well, they'd like us to have rules, but
and
we.
Oh, Rich told me,
we-
like last year out in our yard.
We have rules, they just don't understand, we're following the state.
Oh, we do.
rules. So I think having a statement that that's what we're doing would take
Okay.
care of it. That was the purpose of the first paragraph or two.
okay,
It's not that we don't have rules, they just aren't aware of it because we haven't written
Yeah.
our own. But we don't want to write our own, we want to do what the state tells us to do, and we do.
this first paragraph on this longer side,
No, the other one. First paragraph, that thing that's.
What the role of the
Highlighted
BZA
thing
there?
there. Yeah, the
the
rule,
link,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, we follow,
And as I was writing out my
it's very clear and.
combining
we
my
only have-
share script with the stuff that Niels sent me, I was like, well, these are really the rules, we've always done. It's just kind of like following the same format all the time.
Is that extra page, was that on your email?
No, the
No.
backside wasn't.
No, I just added it tonight. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
too much time in my hand.
It's a Charles question though, and I think where Rich and maybe other town board members are coming from is in the zoning code, it says the BZA shall adopt rules and regulations, so it's one thing, yes. The board is following the rules based on state requirements, but the board still hasn't adopted rules and regulations how it conducts. That's all, which is required by the zoning code. So I think that's where that's coming from the town board is coming.
Okay, so we have to adopt some rules formally in a vote.
I think what Bob has essentially done here is cover our butt, if you will. In terms of, yes, we have rules, here they are. If you have questions about our rules, you can go to this website, which references the technical guidance, et cetera. Rather than our writing out everything that's in. that
I agree.
website.
I was thinking, I don't want to write a whole
Yeah,
series of.
It's a 12 to 15 page document, it's really clear cut, and it's exactly what we do.
Yeah,
And tell us what we can and cannot do, and it's.
All right,
it's what we
so
follow, yeah.
I
Should
would
we
say,
take a vote?
the question about 1,500 feet,
Well, that's a throw on, it's only the first paragraph. I mean, the second is just, as in clarity in my point, because as I say, my reading
Okay.
is that only Steve here can call a meeting. And I'm suggesting that we, the minimum law is that we can call a meeting and we can be notified in 5 days, and that's legal to move ahead. And I'm suggesting as a matter of practice, we make that 2 weeks.
So how about this? I suggest we send this to Rich and then have him say, is this okay or not? The 2 paragraphs,
The first 2
first 2
Leave
paragraphs?
out my 3rd paragraph.
Yeah,
For
for
further
now,
discussion.
yeah.
Good.
Because they're more like, these are more like the rules that we
Yeah,
established.
I tacked on the 3rd because I started looking out the window at my garage, which isn't there.
Jesus. Okay, is that, everybody okay with that? I'll send these 2 paragraphs to Rich, our liaison, and
I mean, I'm not really able to digest them right now, but if you think they're good, I'll. whatever.
you give me feedback.
Okay.
Actually, do. Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're fine, whatever.
Let me ask. One question. Our applicants tonight. Did they have all their questions answered so that they can then proceed with?
I don't know,
Proceed with the hearing?
I don't know.
I don't think we have questions.
They didn't have enough questions for my liking I'm thinking,
I think they were just ready to go. I mean, they already put everything forward.
I think so.
They
I
didn't
think
really come with-
we're gonna do what we did the other times and saying, okay, we've already heard a lot of this, so unless you have anything to add, new to add.
Or should
Please
our
add something new. is what I was
Sure.
thinking.
zoning officer go back to them and say, is it clear, are you clear with what you're gonna be bringing in next month?
So I guess that's my question to the board is like, what more information? You've already told them,
I told them what I wanted.
so do you need anything more from me at this point?
I don't know. I'm not sure what to say. I don't know. Anybody?
I don't see.
Do we want anything more
It's
from them?
their responsibility to make a compelling case to us, right? We've given them more feedback than people usually have.
Oh, they got a lot. of people.
I asked them to clarify that drawing that I didn't think seemed
Yeah,
right, but I don't know if they will. or
Yeah,
not.
well, in the spirit of good neighborly and, we're all trying to work together here. You could say, but
Oh, wait,
Cheryl's got a little bit of hesitation. Could you clarify the drawing? What I said was any alternatives? I'm not seeing any alternatives. I don't know, but I don't want to go too far because you don't want to give the impression that if they do that, then it's going to be okay.
But what more information does the board need in order to hold a hearing? That's the
No, we can hold a hearing
No,
now,
we can hold a hearing. We could hold it.
but we also had suggestions like maybe if you have a septic and it stops you from putting it over there, then show that.
Please say, yes, we did consider an alternative. That's stuff like that. But I
That's
think
just-
more, it was more procedural, like from you instead of 3.
a request for one
Variance that has the
variance
3
based on
One
your
that binds them all.
decline, which is based on these 3 issues.
Yeah, so they go on the whereas,
Same
whereas they asked for this and it's this, whereas they asked for that and that, whereas they, and then that's the whole variance.
But we're gonna go through those five statutory.
Because what I don't wanna have happen is have them come back in here next month. I won't be
The
here.
following month, yeah, right. Oh, you mean next
Well,
month, yeah.
And then, you know. They don't have all the stuff that we wanna hear. And we have to send them away again, that's. I think that's.
I think we've all
I
weighed
think
in on
we've got
that, right?
everything. I think we've got everything we need.
So I think the things we need from Neil is, one, do we really have both the front yard setback and a wetland setback for sure? Because we've never done a wetland setback from the lake before, ever. We've never had that as a separate
I
thing.
love it.
We've only dealt with the
But I love
50
it.
minus the 20. You love it, but is it real?
It's two separate regulations. They are distinct.
Yeah, it's real. It's right here. That's what I, well,
Well, we
we
were-
were in, this is right on
We make
our
mistakes
code.
too.
Okay, so you're
Okay.
saying it's new and we're gonna do it. That's all.
I don't know if it's new. I know it's legal. I know it's
Something.
technically true.
Since 2019.
And I'm not sure that we,
At least.
yeah, I don't know how new it is, but
New to our
new to us, yeah.
procedure. Okay, so we're doing that.
But I'm not sure how many times we've said, oh, 40 feet's good enough. I mean, how many times have we done that on the lake?
So similar.
We've done it,
No,
but not on the lake.
No, but that was what they were asking for the variance against, was the 4 feet, not 75.
They have three variances and one of them is
no,
the lake. Oh, in the past, yeah, okay, right.
But then the other thing we need from him is, do we have separate? Do we have to go through the 5 statutory thing, whatever those things are, 3 separate times or not?
No,
That's-
one time is what I'm saying.
And Neil, are you okay with that if we put it on?
Also, I'll redraft the 3 resolutions into one.
Mm-hmm,
And it's one appeal, you have 3 different variances under that one.
Correct.
appeal. But if the board is going to only look at those 5 statutory issues under state law. For that one appeal. I'll
Mhm.
Then-
draft that
And we'll look
other.
at each of those.
Then
aspects.
essentially,
Yes.
we'll either be voting
Yeah.
yes on all 3 issues. Or no. If we have no on one of them, then it's no on all 3, and it's
Well,
no on the.
yeah,
we
we
could
could say
say-
words too. We'll add
Let's
words.
say, is the variance substantial? That's one of the terms we use, right? And we got 3. We could say in this thing, 2 of them are not substantial, 1 is, and we just say that.
Mhm.
Now, in the
Right.
end, we say based on the preponderance of the evidence before us in these 5 things, weighing the benefit to the client versus that of the town, we do blah.
Right.
And then we just make.
Right, but-
Yeah, we
but
just
it-
put statements in. The
But in
statements
our
are-
minds, we've got 3 different
Right,
things.
We
For
could,
each
And we
one.
may like 2 of them, but if you don't feel that one should get the variance, then the whole variance should go
well, it
back.
could be.
in the end,
Unless-
let's say,
In the
you know,
end, you might say, okay, but.
all 3 of these setbacks are really substantial, but it really doesn't affect the view shed that much, it really doesn't affect the runoff.
But what if
And-
one of them
and-
is very substantial,
Well,
but 2 aren't?
But we
There's
might,
gonna be,
well.
I do
we
that
might
all the
say-
time. I'm saying, no, this is a deal breaker for me. I do it
Yeah.
all the time when I'm,
Okay, I want us to
Personally.
understand that
yeah,
But
if
that,
we say
personally,
no.
I'll say no.
it's a
No,
deal-
that's a deal breaker. You know,
Yeah,
there's-
we gotta say yes to all 3.
but you could in theory say all 3 are substantial and yet we could still do the variance.
Oh, yes,
Right,
of course we
right,
could.
So,
If we
Yeah.
do yeses on all of them, fine.
you know,
No one
Yeah.
wants to see us do that thing 3 times in one meeting.
Oh,
No one
no.
will leave here alive.
I like your proposal. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I wanna
Just remind
put
me
it
what the
together.
3 issues are. There's the stream variance, there's the.
Front yard and the lake.
The lake has a wetland and the lake has a bound front yard.
And what's the
Yeah,
difference?
so front yard setback and
terms of-
nothing.
So
40
the-
40 feet, 50 feet.
I see this. It makes more sense for me as a rear. But you call it the front on so,
The town board.
yeah. So that, let's call it yard setback, that's more easier. That yard setback is 40 feet.
It's 50 minus.
It's
20.
50 minus 20%, but there's a 20% allowance, which is like, what? What is it?
I know.
Jesus. Right? Anyway, we've been here before. Okay, but
So
So that's 40.
Yes, the buffer setback of the wetland from the lake is 50.
With no decrease.
with no
no,
decrease.
no zero. No, it's right here, 50 feet.
All right, so that's actually
Right
good.
out of our
I
thing.
think it's 75.
That's the intermittent stream is 75.
Let's stay with the lake for a minute. He has
50.
50 and 75 on his lake.
No, you had 50
Wetland setback.
space 75 or 50-75, so I'm not sure what that meant, but it's 50.
Yeah, my interpretation is that it's 50. The board may.
It says it right here, 50. This is the code. I mean, I got this off the website, but
I know.
that's either wrong or right. I don't know.
I think the last time they did the update, things weren't caught.
Oh.
So,
So where are the real rules? Then these aren't the real rules?
so.
Setback from lake shore, minimum measured from 50.
But if it's a state wetlands, then it's 75 or something like that, right?
So one of the problems with the code that I'm hoping to get addressed soon is there's no blanket statement that says if there's a conflict in the zoning code, another conflict, the more stricter applies. I'm really used to that, seeing that there isn't that in this case. So what you have is in a table, like shore zone. It says 50 feet from any stream or lake. The unfortunate thing is in that table, that's listed under perennial or permanent, which is stream,
Mhm.
but it says lake.
Yeah, so they're giving nomenclature for a stream.
There's that.
It is
there's that
permanent.
And since it's in the steep slope, it says 75.
Yeah,
However, you go over to the wetlands. It's considered a wetland, it only says 50 feet, it doesn't give that provision, which they probably should have done, saying 75 feet if the lot is within a steep slope area, overlay. I think they omitted that. I think the intention was that it should have been 75, they just didn't cover every. The basis of the conflict in code.
Well, and we can interpret conflicts.
sure, but let me read you three things. One is the one I just read you, minimum
That guidance.
from lake shore is 50 feet. The next one is structure or parking area, from, what's this one? A road setback from any perennial intermittent streams or federal wetland edge in unique natural area. In unique natural area, it's not though, is it?
Not in the unique natural area.
Okay, and steep slope overlay areas, it is that.
It is that.
Minimum feet 75. And then. Structure or the third one, structure or parking area, road setback from any state wetland in feet 100.
State,
So you need to put a 100 in there too.
it's not a state or local, it's federal.
Is this just federal? Wait.
Consider it one.
Oh, no, structure or parking area, road setback from any federally or locally designated wetland edge. Feet 50-100. So that's 4,
Holy crap.
3, let's get rid of it. Okay, so which one? Take your pick. So 50 seems to be a real common minimum,
Since we're in federal.
but then there's a
waters,
C below and then there's a 212.
I just have to tell you that my daughter was today offered a job with the wetland division of the
Oh.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Tell her to get on the stick here and start defining wetlands.
As a historian, this reminds me of the Bay of Pigs. No, not the Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile
Yeah,
Crisis.
that's right.
Khrushchev sent 2 letters. Kennedy said, we're gonna ignore that one and do this one. It does what we want.
So let's bomb Cuba, is that what we're saying here? Yeah, okay.
Is that in our purview?
I don't think so. Strike that from the record, please.
We're kidding.
Okay, we good here? I don't know, did we cover that? We're gonna find out something? 50, 100, 75?
I think that's for the board to determine. My interpretation is that it's 50.
If you could just give us guidance on the state versus federal wetland and the justification. for that.
Yeah, I think you were gonna
The-
give us a
I'm not
link
trying
or
to
something
challenge
like
on
that.
that, but it's,
Yeah.
it's complicated, as you know.
Yeah.
If we're gonna rely on that, we should get it right.
So we have this kind of combination of steep overlay and all that. too.
What's mean high water?
That's an elevation, that's designated as there's a,
I mean,
that's why the owner was saying, I'm at 286 feet, I'm at, or 386, and
but I mean,
so it's gonna be one of those
I mean,
elevations.
when you have a huge snow melt, in March. The lake's gonna rise up.
You're preaching to the preachers here, we're like, yeah, that's good, you're 1 whole foot off. I was thinking 1 whole foot off the lake level. Huh?
He hasn't seen it in the 2 years he's lived here.
I know, it's been 2 years, 2 whole years, never seen it. Okay,
5 years.
we good on this? You're gonna send us a wetland kind of thing, and then we'll make a determination. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, also touch base on, higher water, because there's problems in terminology and definitions there too, so it's nothing to.
Great, have another meeting about, okay. Well, definitely. Okay, is everybody good? Do we have any other new items? Anybody have new items? Tom, I think
I
you had
have one.
something.
I don't know if he realizes it, but this week and last week, David actually raised a very important point. Because at the beginning of this meeting and middle of the meeting last week, he suggested to the applicants that they might want to wait till next month when we have the full board here. Now, either he doesn't accept the alternate as a member of the full board, or you don't accept me as a member of the full board. I would like from the rest of you to know whether I am a full member of the board, my vote counts as much as any other, and that his suggesting that they wait when the full board is here is in fact quite insulting to me, David.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, let's see,
But you've done it two meetings in a row now.
when we designated you to be a full voting member at the beginning of that meeting, that's it.
Then why did you suggest they wait till the next meeting when the full board would be here?
Because they have that ability.
They have that ability the whole time, but if I'm not part of the full board when I'm sworn in, let me know.
You definitely are, and we value, and even when we have all 5 of the regular members here, you are of course always welcome to participate in the discussion.
More
You know, we
important,
value your input.
moreover, your opinion, your input is really super valued.
But
So
I think suggesting to people that they may want to wait till the next meeting when the full board is here. It's a bad-
can I put
bad
that?
suggestion.
He also said, who else is missing? There's other people missing. I think he thought we were down a few people. Or,
I don't think.
I don't want to throw it in his head, but anyway,
I think Bob and Steve weren't here.
for sure,
And
last
I
time.
knew darn well that you were gonna take a harder look than,
No, harder luck, yeah, harder.
Well,
I think it was more about just having 3 people. I don't know what.
Not tonight.
I don't know when it.
Not
came up,
tonight, it
I don't
wasn't.
remember that
for,
happening.
for the next meeting,
Last time.
Dave tells us he's probably not gonna be here.
Okay, well,
Andy, maybe not, I hope you can be. And if so, you were a full member.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
just
God.
think it's important to clarify that,
No, but.
so that you're not making that
That's
suggestion.
why it's important. When we don't have a full forum. That we have a
Agreed,
motion.
but tonight you were mistaken because we did have a full.
We do have a
board,
right.
and full, So that was just a mistake on your
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
I think tonight he just
No,
said
it
it will be
It
different.
doesn't
for
make sense
next time.
to fight you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that you understand that the alternate is a full member of the board when he's
Absolutely.
filling in for someone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean,
Good.
that's, what I was saying was, if in fact, the whole constituted board was here. You would then be an alternate. And you would not have a vote.
Exactly, that's my point. Come back when you won't have a vote. That's not good.
I don't.
That's
I don't
not a
think
good
that's-
suggestion.
I don't think that's the
I don't
point.
think-
Okay, thank you for the apology. Good,
Good.
highly valued, all right, don't miss this.
Absolutely, and even when you don't get a vote, I value your.
Input and
I
opinion.
mean, yeah, very frankly. If you came here for every meeting, whether you were an alternate or a designated voting member, I think you could at least put your oar in. even
Oh,
though-
definitely, it seemed to me that you didn't recognize that.
Right.
Misstatement on your part, you're highly valued, and I want to emphasize that over and over. We good? Do I hear any motions to adjourn this meeting?
I motion.
Interestingly, if you're following Robert's rules of order, you don't need a motion to say. to adjourn.
Adjourn? Just say adjourn?
You can just, if there's
Yeah,
nothing.
but are we
You can
following
just.
Robert's rules? Are we really?
That's what it says on paper. I think it's the best.
No, I'm
idea.
not sure. Are we following Robert's? I feel like we're
I
not,
said this to the library.
we're not adhering to all the Robert's rules. I'm hesitant to say that.
You gotta be a little careful.
We need a sergeant at arms.
I had a parliamentarian.
That's right.
I had considerable discussions with a law firm out in San Diego
Mhm.
when we were discussing Robert's Rules of Order at Lifelong.
Hmm.
And they said the majority of the cases that they deal with, because this is their field, are when someone is disgruntled and says they didn't follow Robert's Rules of
That's right.
Order, therefore their decision is not valid.
And I have.
And that's what
I
this
have
law
people
firm
who
is
do
made a
that.
practice on.
I have them recite the Roberts rules to me to prove that they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah. The problem is,
There's
no.
most do not, exactly. Okay, so I had a second, all in favor of adjourning, I'm doing Steve's rules. Adjourned, aye.
Hi.
Good. Motion carries. Thank you all. Great night. Good night. That was good discussion. Thank you.